You know,
He does this.
you know, sometimes you just wish that you could have the screen on so people could see what's going on as we're getting ready for the show.
I have no idea what you're referring to.
Oh, I'm sure you have no idea what you're talking.
This
What
gun pod is actually here. It isn't stuck. That's just silly.
I think it's time to make a blooper reel.
That would be a fantastic idea. That would be
I
a
actually have to do that for,
fantastic idea.
ETNL, they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we want a separate file for everything that happened before we actually got to recording.
You guys be careful. I might start doing that before you know it.
Ooh.
Everyone, welcome to the Newbcast Podcast for the 19th of May, 2019. My name is Mr. Sheldine, joined by the Newbcast crew, and our guest this week, NoxtheSplicer.
Diddly, 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 diddly. It's like
Right.
but the
Nox.
diddly always finds a way.
Nox, welcome back to the show. Glad to have you back.
So glad to be back. I'm really glad I was asked to return. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you know, we had a great time with you last time, and of course, when we were playing around with that game club, book club thing, you were able to contribute greatly to that, and definitely shown that you have such great insight on a lot of things. It's like, yes, we must pick her brain more about things that's going on. That would be great.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I suppose to kick everything off, why don't we just go around and ask people what they've been playing? And Nox, why don't we start with you? What are some of the games you've been playing the last few weeks?
Last few weeks, I've been playing Close to the Sun, which I wrapped up last night, actually. I've also done some Life is Strange, the Life is Strange 2, which I always enjoy. And other than that, I've been also playing some Mordau, which is the new kind of like chivalry medieval fighting game, which I really enjoyed that one.
That looks like
I
a lot of
recommend that
fun. Okay, because yeah, isn't it the same developers too that did this one?
You know what? I'm not 100% sure.
I thought it was. I know it handles a lot of the same way, and I remember Chivalry being so much fun and just nonsense, absolute nonsense. I think I have a video somewhere of me chasing a person around in Chivalry like for 60 seconds with the Benny Hill theme playing. So
Yeah, this one's a lot of fun. It's just it's a good game to pass the time with, and you know, I think it's 24v24 battles, and they also have a battle royale aspect to it,
of course,
which is pretty good. Yeah, get on that bandwagon. Yeah.
Okay. What kind of? So I guess the part I don't know about that is what kind of classes are there? Are there the same type of classes, or is there anything new, or what does that look like?
I mean, there's knights, berserkers. You can play as an engineer where you just set up traps. And I don't know if it's a separate class or part of the engineer class, but you can also leave health packets on the ground for other people to pick up, which is a cool mechanic, which wasn't in Chivalry, obviously. But so I.
Okay. Well, we are off to a great start, everyone.
Oh dear.
There we go. Okay, everything's back. All of a sudden, I saw Nox's audio just stopped. Elijah went black, and Dizzo was just a frozen screen. That was great.
Let me just put on my strange coin. It'll cast away any weirdness.
Yeah,
Sure.
absolutely.
Yes.
There is substantially less weirdness now. I feel it.
The power of Destiny 2 compels you.
And then, yeah, last night you were finishing. What was that? You just said it. I know you just said it.
Star Wars Republic.
No.
She was saying Close to the Sun?
Close to the Sun, yeah. I remember I was looking for a while, then I actually was paying attention to a point where I saw screw this noise, screw this noise, screw this noise as she was being chased through the hallway by something that looked like it wanted to chomp your face off. It was great.
Yeah, it was I'm gonna bring this up later for another question, but it was a beast that had come through like something with the Tesla coil that they had been messing up with, like alternate reality or something.
Okay.
And that was the outcome of whatever they were experimenting on that ship.
Gotcha. Huh. And now I'm curious of what that's gonna look like. So those are the few of the games you've been playing. Anything else that stuck out? Like it's been really interesting or really fun or? Oh, this internet! I love it. I'm not sure what's going on, guys. Everything was working up to when we went live, and as soon as we went live, that's when it's like, never mind. This isn't gonna do this thing. So we'll bear with it the best we can, guys.
This is what life is like.
Yeah, right. I've gotten to the point where if there isn't a problem going on, then this isn't a Newbcast podcast at this point. That's kind of what I've gotten to.
That's fair.
So yeah, no. So what I was trying to ask is, Nox, was there anything else interesting, fun, or whatever you've played, or those the quick roundups of what you've played?
That's mainly the 3 games I've been playing for the last couple weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. Right on. Well, with that said, I guess welcome back, and yeah. Elijah, how's it going? Welcome to the show.
It's been going interestingly if you've been following my Twitter. I mean, hiding in one's basement, quietly waiting to find out if a tornado is going to happen, stuff like that. Just, fun times.
Look, you're clearly doing it wrong. If you're in the basement, you're in the wrong place. When you hear a tornado siren, you're supposed to go outside and look for it so you know where it's at.
Also, you shouldn't have to ever leave the basement because that's where you put your computer. It's the best place to keep it cool.
Right? Right?
I'm just picturing that with the flooding that we get, and it's making me go, nope! But, as for what I've been playing, well, obviously, if you followed the stream last night, we wrapped up Star Wars Republic Commando, which is a game I love, but it was being kind of a dick last night. Like, it was... I mean, understand, I have cleared that game on hard difficulty settings, mostly relying on the pistol. It's not that I don't know how to play it or anything, it's just like, every wrong thing that could happen was happening in a row. So that was interesting. But, honestly, the thing that I'm most excited about isn't something that I played, but I will talk about the one interesting, well, I guess it's technically 2, but it's in 2 parts, but it's one thing. Interesting thing I played, but, there's actually a new thing that I've acquired that I'm very excited for.
Okay.
I have found one of the strangest games in the PlayStation 2 era. So, can you guess who made this? You're expecting, like, some no-name studio, right?
Can I appreciate that, first off, I was expecting an extremely strange game from me. That is standard.
The broke up again on this. I have no idea what you said.
Well, guys,
we are turning into robots.
Hello?
Who's there?
I am not sure what's going on, guys, so I apologize for the technical difficulties. Yeah, bolts, right? Rip that internet. It's interesting because when I look at OBS, like, OBS shows everything's solid. It's all on the Discord side of things, apparently. So that's interesting.
I mean, the good news is you seem to be right on cue for everything on Twitch, so we all sound like robots.
You do all sound like robots, in fact.
But everybody hears you fine. You are clearly the only human. How did we not convert her?
No idea. Oh, I know. I can't show you, but I have an explanation of why I've not been upgraded yet. But please, why don't you tell us a little bit more about this Nightmare Before Christmas game that you discovered, Elijah?
Yeah. Who was the developer for this? Oh no.
I think we lost him.
Oh,
I think we lost him. Oh dear.
We found the defector, guys.
I think so.
Wait, everything's back. Everyone's back. Everyone's saying things. Okay,
I think
quickly,
so.
back to what we're saying. Here's up. We're saying something.
I'm not surprised you have a weird game. Please tell me more.
Okay.
That's all I wanted to say.
All right, but I want you to guess who developed this.
THQ.
No,
Oh.
but here's the thing. I'll give you another hint. They made some of the most famous PS2 games, and they're Japanese.
Namco Bandai.
No. One last guess.
Squaresoft?
Nox, you got a guess?
I was gonna do a troll guess.
Oh, I'm
Oh,
still.
please do. Please do.
Project Red, hands down.
Sorry, but probably closer than some. Capcom, the very folks behind Devil May Cry, made a God of War clone sequel to A Nightmare Before Christmas. And here's the thing that gets even better. This game has music video boss fights. They redid the lyrics to songs from the movie and let the developers make fights that are set to them.
Uh-huh.
And the thing is, it's supposedly actually decent. Like, nobody hated it. It wasn't mind-blowing, but nobody hated it, and it's a rated E10 God of War clone. Just like, there's so many layers of, how does this thing exist?
Yeah.
How is this in my hands? And why does no one mention that it happened? And the extra twist is, you notice the green thing that he's wielding on the box art? Yeah, his primary weapon is basically, in all but name, Flubber. So not only is it a sequel to A Nightmare Before Christmas, it's a crossover story between Flubber and A Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh,
Yeah,
dear.
I would accept something like, oh, that's the power of souls from the afterlife. Sure.
Yes.
Like,
You know what? I gotta say, Elijah, I love it, because I like to think that I have a taste in obscure games, but then I see what you're playing, I'm like, no, I really don't have an obscure taste in games at all. I just slightly eclectic at best.
Eclectic is good. You find neat things on the periphery, which is what brings me.
Oh no.
It's never good when it gets up like that. It never is.
And I'm just gonna throw this one out while we got a second. I'm not like the other girls. I play Starbound. I'm super indie.
I have played what can be best described as, in both parts, possibly barely functioning, and yet also then suddenly turning around and being one of the best PlayStation Move games I've ever played. Mini-series within a series. It's based on a popular film franchise that had its ending film split into two halves. Any guesses?
That immediately makes me think of the Hunger Games.
The only Hunger Games game is actually a mobile one. For some reason, they seriously never made a video game based off of that, which still stuns me.
Because that would have been the ultimate battle royale. I mean, let's be honest here.
Right?
That's exactly what it would have been. Missed opportunity, guys. Developers,
True.
you missed out.
I'll give one last guess. It is a young adult franchise.
The only other thing I can think of then is Harry Potter.
Twilight.
There you go! And she's victorious!
Harry Potter. Yeah.
And yeah, here's the screwy thing. If you want to actually be like a crazy person like me and actually explore motion control games in the modern era, you have to buy each half on a different system, because one has Kinect and the other one has PlayStation Move. Because someone thought that was a good call to make. Although, it should be taken as a warning that, just in like that, it's a neat novelty versus it actually functions. Because here's the thing. This one is actually really fun, but it requires having this.
Oh,
If
sure.
you do not have this, then just skip it. It's just another cover-based shooter. But the thing is, you swap spells using these buttons, and you use your shield with this one, and you just use the trigger to fire. So, and the thing is, since you're always just aiming with it, you're never fighting with a right analog stick. It's beautiful. It's incredibly fluid, and because all of the spells have different abilities, you're going from freezing some guy with a sniper rifle thing to blowing someone up to casting a shield. It's an amazing, thrilling experience. And sadly, it's the shorter one at only like 4 hours long. Sorry, you got a question?
No, I was going to say, kind of based on what you're saying there, I wonder how something would work with, like, this type of controller.
Ooh.
One could only think. Supposedly there is a third-person open world-ish style Harry Potter game in the works, supposedly by the people who made Disney Infinity, but the best we've seen is a few rare video leaks and images, but no official announcement has happened in over a year since that leak happened, so no one knows if that got canned or whatever.
Yeah, see, I'd be wearing my skeptical spectacles for that because of the fact that that entire studio went the wayside because Disney flat out admits they can't make video
Warner
games.
Brothers bought them. That's the thing. That's why right around the time Warner Brothers bought them. And the extra thing that gets me is not only did Warner Brothers buy them up, but their first game after being bought by Warner Brothers was making Cars 3 for Disney, the company that shut them down.
Hey,
I'm just quietly sitting
perfect
there thinking,
sense. Makes perfect sense.
you guys must have been so pissed making. I mean, apparently Cars 3, the game, is really good. Like, it's got 8s and 9s, but also, like, that had to sting. But the thing is, whereas Part 2 is just good, and I'm going to be talking about that later on, Part 1 is like a bad hangover that you just can't stop laughing at, but you also aren't sure why you're here. It is so barely functioning that there are points where the game just goes, look, I have no friggin' clue what we're going to do next. Here's 3 levels. Choose which one you want to do next. We're going to have to do all 3, but I'm not even going to go to the effort of trying to create any sort of structure. Sure, we'll just have Harry break back into the Ministry of Magic. That's not at all confusing that he did that a second time in a row. And, it's a cover-based shooter where there's nearly no cover, and there's basically no point, because even on hard difficulty, no one can hit you. You have an immense amount of health bar. Instead of intuitively swapping between your spells, you have to pause and select from a menu that's a radial menu. And the most hilarious thing is, one of the earliest spells you get is the sniper rifle one, and unlike in Deathly Hallows Part 2, where it's, you know, a stun shot that basically freezes them in place and makes them collapse, in this one, it turns them to your side? So you have a sniper rifle with ridiculous accuracy that turns enemies to your side, and also you can at any time whip out your invisibility cloak and just hide. So you can just turn enemies against each other, cloak, and walk through levels.
Uh-huh.
The sniper rifle love.
And this also has challenges thrown in. This is the one that's like, you know, close to 8 to 12 hours long. This is the fun one. This one barely functions. Like, they went to the ridiculous effort of animating all the physics of Harry Potter's hoodie, but Ron and Hermione look like they're stunt doubles. Mr. Weasley sounds almost like, you know, a completely different ethnicity than anywhere near what the Weasleys are supposed to be.
How does that work?
One of the most hilarious levels involves you chasing Dean Thomas. Oh, wait, there's like next to no story in either of them. Like, seriously, no matter what, the story is terribly presented. It is not a good way to experience the conclusion of the saga. At least the second one just focuses on the Battle of Hogwarts. But the first one, it's just sort of like, oh yeah, Harry's running away now. Also, Voldemort's you-know-who, and yeah, that's about it. Who cares about exposition? They actually added a scene that's out of nowhere that adds nothing. It really, I mean, it's like trying to recall a hangover. It is so confusing and so misshapen. I couldn't stop playing it because it was so stunning. But also, really, the only thing that can quantify it is the word that you'll be hearing someone say hundreds of times in Part 1, which is, it is truly stupefying. My gosh, you'll hear that spell so much. It was a journey experiencing these two games. I actually had to give up on Part 1 eventually because it was like, this is not going to get better. I'm chasing Dean Thomas and a gnome through a forest. They make you walk back and forth across the same level 4 times without a loading screen. Like, literally, it's like you reach the one end, okay, we don't want to make a new level. You go back to the other end. Now back again. Now back again. Now here's a cutscene. I want to know what happened. I so want to know the story behind these games. It has to be one of the most amazing ones.
It sounds like a wonderful car crash.
Oh my gosh.
That seems like a great way to describe it. Dizza, well done.
In summation.
Yeah, right. So besides Star Wars and Harry Potter, are there any other games that you've been playing? Anything else that's been worth is a while, or has that summed you up?
Oh, yes, actually, there's one that I recently had to touch upon that I couldn't talk about at all because of embargo. Well, two. There's Sniper Elite V2 Remastered. It actually looks worse than the original game. Don't play it. We streamed it for 2 hours. It was not in any way improved. I don't understand why they're expecting more money for this. Honestly, Rebellion, shame on you. This is a really piss poor effort. You should not have... They're doing this whole thing like, there's a Sniper Elite VR game, there's Sniper Elite 5, they're bringing 3 to Switch. They're doing all these things, and it's like, oh yes, and we're going to cart out the worst one of the new Sniper Elite games and act like it's brand new just because we lumped in some DLC. You look like you're wearing a toupee. That is how broken the shaders are when they imported the assets into the new engine.
Yikes.
There's occasionally some better lighting in a few areas, like the one German V2 rocket place, you can slightly see better where you're going in the tunnels.
Okay.
Otherwise, there's been no impressive additions. Some of the things that I even saw in the trailer that you're supposed to be able to do, I could not find any way to unlock, and the multiplayer servers are dead on arrival. Like, day one, they are dead. So, yeah, skip that one.
Okay.
On the flip side, A Plague Tale: Innocence. Have any of you even been hearing about that one? It's kind of like, what if you combined The Last of Us with the Spanish Inquisition, France during the Black Plague, and 2 small children trying to survive it? Also, some elements of Dead Space.
Dead Space.
Yeah.
What a mix.
Yeah, it's interesting because like you've got the crafting and you've got the balance of risk and reward. Even some of like the aiming controls and everything reminds you of it. And like, I loved, say, the first 7 hours of it. The only problem is it goes on for 5 more, and it really kind of overs. The main issues are your brother Hugo. At first, I kind of liked. Understand, I am a guy who likes kids. Okay. First, Hugo's cute, like when he's giving you flowers to put in your hair and everything. But eventually, they start making the kid force the plot by being an idiot, or adding difficulty by being an idiot. And, like, I have, worked with kids who've had much more serious issues than Hugo, who just, has this ambiguous disease, and they have been way more well-behaved than this kid. Even another reviewer I was talking to was like, yeah, that one section near the end, completely contrived. It really just comes out of nowhere. So, like, I want to love it. And for the record, I did give it above average on my rating scale, but it's got issues. And the problem is all the other kids you meet are awesome and way cooler. Roderick is this badass blacksmith's apprentice who's mourning his father. He's got reasons to actually act as a person. And, Melly is this cool Robin Hood-esque woman. You really want to get to know more about her. Even Amicia, she starts out as kind of a pain in the ass, but you see her grow. There is some good writing. And then it all ends with just giant rat monoliths being fought with by very ambiguous urban fantasy magic, because suddenly we just lost the plot about this game being a grounded horror, and now suddenly weird magical stuff is happening. Seriously, it breaks my heart. The game breaks my heart, because, like, there's so much that I did genuinely enjoy, but also so much where it's like, if they hadn't tried to force it, I think it would have been better. If it had been less linear and just a few sections with more expansive stuff, because, like, if you're curious, look up the Battlefield demo where you're just navigating a battlefield full of corpses and rats. It is some of the most unsettling stuff you will see in a video game. It is really beautifully done, and I just wish they had held on to that, because it's really good. And also, for some reason, a lot of the cutscenes focus on the faces that are barely animated. Like, imagine just sort of looking like, I am very much in regret right now. I'm so sorry that my parents are dead. I feel such emotion. Also, please, French developers, if you're going to do English voice acting, ensure that your actors are rather comfortable with English dialogue. Otherwise, it's going to be very obvious that they're trying to get their emotions to come through in a language that's not their primary language.
I suppose that would be rather interesting to just watch that train wreck happen. I don't know. Excellent. Is that everything? Did we get it? We got it?
We got it. It was not nearly as insane as last time.
Awesome. Well, that's being said, welcome. And then Dizzy, welcome to the show. How's it going?
I am doing all right. I'm doing all right. I've been playing a lot of real life games.
Yeah, I saw that. Tell us a little bit about what you've been playing.
In real life, I've been playing the Find a New Place to Be, and it took a few times, and some of the bosses were difficult, but I think that part's worked out. So the next time the podcast comes up, the background will probably look vaguely slightly different. We'll see how that turns out.
It's a green
Hopefully
curtain.
it'll be consistent enough.
It's a green curtain.
I don't know. Maybe it will have fewer folds in it.
See, I figured the Saturday you're gonna have the studio phone behind you and just let that be there.
It might be.
Okay.
That might actually be it, because it will literally be set up like the day of.
Nice.
But as a matter of actual games,
yes,
I've been playing some Diablo 3. Season 17 just started.
Yeah, so you're playing that on Friday. How'd it go?
It was a lot of fun, and it continues to remind me how enjoyable games can be, specifically because of the people that you are hanging out with and enjoying them with. So that was a real blast, and maybe one of these actual seasons I will pay attention and get some achievements done and have something to show for it, because I definitely didn't do that last season, and I meant to.
Nope, I didn't either. I got my character like level 50, and I'm like, and I'm done. So hopefully you have better luck than that, because my goodness.
I mean, we completed all of Act 1 in one day, so at that rate, it should be fine.
Oh,
and I know that I can go directly into adventure mode. I know, but I have
fast
to.
acting.
Huh?
No slow release there.
No.
That is true.
See.
Oh my.
Wow. Well, no. See, I think adventure mode was going to be the way to go, but you know.
Yeah. Just call the entire Diablo experience a liquid shell capsule, because yes, it is fast acting. So that was a lot of fun. I've been playing a lot of Eco with our fellow streamer and guest podcaster Flying Bolts.
Yep.
And it was really nice to transition from that 24-hour stream where I was trying to save us from a meteor to having to try to save us from a meteor in a totally different genre.
Makes perfect sense. Perfect sense.
And I've briefly spoken to this before. I think one of the biggest challenges that I have with any open world game is that I need to have a concept, an obligation of something to do.
Well, sure.
And so the concept of the meteor works well. And I think the overarching message of, hey, we got to take care of this planet, but also let's make sure that we don't destroy the planet while we're taking care of the planet, is a really, really good message.
Okay.
And so Eco as a concept of a game really makes me happy. It is a lot of fun to explore, and you do a lot of mining, and you learn how mining actually works in real life, which is also kind of cool. Like I think that this is the first time that I've seen something that I would legitimately call edutainment that I enjoy.
Okay. Right on. Yeah, I've seen that one being played quite a bit between you and Bolts and co-streams and whatnot. Are there aspects of it that kind of adds commentary to current states of affair as well?
Oh, absolutely. So one of the things that's interesting, so there are different types of pollution that you can create over time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the different pollutions that you can make as you're crafting stuff is air pollution. If you don't appropriately take care of that, hey, your small planet that you are building everything on is going to get warmer. And all of a sudden, the oceans are going to rise. And all of the stuff that you conveniently put on your beaches, because it was so nice to have all of this open space available to immediately build and not have to interrupt everything else. Yeah, I'm sorry about that.
Gosh, that really adds good commentary to circumstances that we would understand quite well right now.
And you can imagine how things can cascade during that too. So, like, say you have a mine that's sitting out by your beach, and now your mine is flooding, and your mine was holding on to a whole bunch of tailings from all of the processing that you've done with your ore. Now you have to deal with that environmental issue on top of what you've created before. On top of, do we even have enough animals to make the meat that we need to have good nutrients to get where we need to go? I don't know. It can be very complex. It also has an interesting government system, which, I mean, Bolts and I haven't had to worry about because it's a small group, everybody knows each other, and we're just friends, so we're doing that. But it'll be cool to see in just a general public environment how that works too.
Sure. Right on. So, okay, we've had the 24-hour stream with Final... Well, that was with the last stream, though. So it's been Eco and Diablo. Anything else that you've been playing, doing?
Really, those have been the big pieces between real life and just recovering. By the way, 24-hour stream, guys, give yourself recovery time. Once again,
I feel like you're giving this advice for a reason.
It's a cautionary tale, really.
Fair enough.
I'm still working on my sleep cycle.
Yeah, I bet. Right on.
So what have you been playing?
Well, I'm glad you asked. Besides Elite Dangerous, of course, because I've been playing a lot of Elite Dangerous, is a few different things. One of the games I picked up finally was Grand Theft Auto 5, and I've been doing a lot of stupid stuff on Grand Theft Auto Online.
Ooh.
I haven't quite got into the roleplay server yet, or decided whether or not I want to do that. I know that's been a popular thing that people are doing, and I just don't know if I could get myself to stick to a character long enough to actually do that. But let me tell you how satisfying it is to be playing this game online, just screwing around, because you're just doing like random missions. And you see another player's name with the letters TV at the end, and you conveniently accidentally run them over with your car.
Oh, sorry.
So does
Did I do that?
Drive-by streaming?
Kind of, yeah. Look, I wasn't stream sniping, I wasn't watching their channel, but when you have the letters TV at the end of your name, you kind of made yourself a target.
I have one quick question, though, just real quick,
Sure.
because this is something that I've always heard about, and it's the only thing that's made me interested in GTA 5 after briefly trying it, is, have you tried any of the roleplay servers? 'Cause I'm told there's, like, mods for it and everything, so there's some really elaborate stuff. There are people who, like, regularly stream it and everything. It's been covered in news articles.
Yeah, no, I have not played it. I'm familiar with it. It is a huge, huge thing right now. And there's some really big... one of the bigger names that I can think of is Kit Boga. Kit Boga does it. If you're familiar with who he is, he's the scammer.
Yeah, there's a Twitch ambassador that I know of who goes by Shannon, and he's been doing some stuff as well.
Yeah.
Enough to at least explore it and see what's happening. Like, I think everybody's kind of testing the waters to see what's going on. And the difficult thing with role-playing, especially in a format like Twitch, is that you have to be both internally entertaining, because if you're not having fun, like, it just kind of it gets stale for you, and it eventually gets stale for other people. But it also has to be instantly understandable by people who are watching, right? And how many times in my RPG group do we have an internal joke, you know, like, come and see the gallery? You guys have no idea what that is. But my friends out in my role-playing group know all about seeing the gallery.
Sure.
And my joy of milkshakes.
Well, that's perfectly understandable. I mean, milkshakes. They never, you know what? I'm not going to do it.
Now, milkshakes.
Look, it certainly has got my attention. I think one of the more interesting role plays that I've seen, besides mention like Kit, is there's a Twitch streamer that does Grand Theft Auto roleplay, and he roleplays a cop, but his daytime job is he works for the California Highway Patrol. So he is a cop who is role-playing a cop, but he's actually incredibly funny to watch.
I imagine using all the procedures and everything, he's gonna blow everyone. Hey.
Like, it's just insane to watch. So it exists. I haven't done it, and there's a lot of different stuff with the various mods and it's insane. I've not got that far yet.
Oh my gosh, Mish, you need to do like a Reno 911.
God.
That would be amazing. You could totally pull that off too.
See, I'm of the same opinion where if you start talking about this dumb American cop show and it's like, which one is that? Oh, Reno 911. Got it. Okay. I wouldn't do that necessarily, but I don't
Leslie
know.
Knope. We need a Leslie. Like, if I had a darn copy of the games, like, you need someone who's relentlessly chipper, acting like they're an NPC. Because, like, that is the problem with GTA 5 stories, that it's always so relentlessly cynical. So give the most positive person ever, who cannot be faffed at all by anything, and just have them be relentlessly played. Like a hybrid, it's essentially a hybrid of Leslie Knope and Caboose from Red vs. Blue. So you can allow for all the chaos to still ensue. I want to see this now. Someone please do this. I will follow you instantaneously if you do it.
Yes. I'm surprised that doesn't already exist, but yes, that would be incredibly entertaining. Oh my god. So, oh gosh. Now I kind of want to go look. I want to scour the Grand Theft Auto listings for this.
Playing in my head.
Yeah. See, I think your abilities to handle an RP situation, I think, Elijah, you would do really well with it and could make it incredibly entertaining. If with anyone out of this, well, maybe Nox. But
No, I don't know.
you don't know.
I watch a lot of GTA roleplay, and I was never into like roleplay kind of stuff, but I found a few streamers that do it. I'm like, holy, like this is so funny. I watch. There's a group on called True Los Santos Roleplay, and their Discord, has hundreds of people, and it's like a dozen streamers, and they do like cops and robbers kind of stuff. They like the police. They even use all the police codes.
Nice.
So they learn all those, and same with like the ambulance. They all learn like the actual terminology and codes. So it's very realistic, and they all use funny accents. It's just interesting to see all the stuff that you can do with it. I mean, there are people that were doing a cash cab in the server, just doing trivia while toting people around. So that was really fun.
Yeah, see, and that's what I'm thinking, like, the fact that you've gotten through and watched it, like, you have an idea what to expect, and perhaps you could pull it off, and then Elijah here could jump in with those too. I think that, like, I think about my own roleplay, like, and it's interesting because it's really I don't know how well I do. Even my D&D character is like an adaptation of myself.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm going to sound very Dungeon Master here for a second, but really, every character is you taking certain shreds of fragments of yourself and extrapolating off of them. Like, that I've had to craft so many different NPCs for Crafty and I's campaign. You're meaning to tell me that I didn't steal some personality traits for at least a few of them? That's perfectly fine. That way something that you can rely upon, because you are supposed to create what you know, write what you know, but also just add stuff to that, angle on that, it's honestly, it's like creating just little personality fragments that become enough that they're like a distinct character that you can have for something. So like, I can totally see you being able to take certain aspects of Miss Michelle and apply them to the GTA world. Just, also have her be very chipper and trying to get everybody interested in this community park that you're trying to set up in, the current dump in Los Santos. We just need another 5,000 signatures, and then we can start a public forum on whether or not this is going to happen.
Personally, I just want to see Miss Michelle Jean Storm Chaser.
If that existed in the game, if there was a way to actually get involved with, like, yeah, I could totally do it. Look, we're getting into the season where that will actually happen on this channel, so yeah, I could easily pull that off. No, I don't know. I think there are other people that are, that would be more entertaining. Not to mention any names, but that could be fun to watch. So I don't know. I guess I can report back in a few weeks if that's something I've decided to approach or not. So that's just one of the things I've been playing. Another thing I've been playing is Tom Clancy's the Division 2.
Yes. Okay. So very important question.
Yes.
Where are you playing it?
PC.
I'm so jealous.
Look, that is the only way to play this game is on PC. I'm sorry.
Yeah. I want to play it on PC. I know my computer can't handle it right now, so it's on PS4, and I enjoy it. And it's not even bad on it, but I know how a good FPS should feel. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand. It's like the whole difference between, like, if you play Mass Effect 3 on a console versus on PC, it's like, this is a completely different game. It should not be. It's technically the same experience, but it is not.
Right.
So, important question. Where's your favorite landmark so far? What is your favorite landmark?
Well, so I'm level 10. I finished the the George Washington Hotel. I've done a lot of side missions, and then I too joined Flying Bolts for a stream where we did a lot of side missions. I was bumped up a level, so all of a sudden I'm in this area that's like, yeah, this is supposed to be for level 5. I'm level 12. It scales nicely. Like, I have to admit, the game does scale your character really nicely when you're bumped up to another area, and when you come back down. But I suddenly have gear that, even for my level and what I'm doing, is a little bit stronger than what I should have. It does not change the fact that the game definitely makes you do a lot of cover firing, which is a nice aspect. It's nice to not just be able to stand there and like, you actually have to take cover and take your opportunity shot and then duck for cover again. I enjoyed that aspect a lot too, and it was a lot better than what I was expecting. I expected to have a good time with it, but it was a lot better than what I was expecting with it. And it will probably be one of the games I end up playing there in the 24-hour stream coming up next weekend.
Definitely.
Yeah. No, it's a great game. If you like FPS games at all, if you like loot 'em, shoot 'ems, if you like Tom Clancy games in general, get this game. You will not regret it.
Tom Clancy's Long Division Squared.
That's not the game. That being said, I think one of the things, having played Division enough, that I find amazing is that when you play it single player, you have to be tactical, but you're very limited to what you can do because you are only one person. When they ramp up the difficulty, when you get 2, 3, 4 people in, it really does require that squad strategy as well. Like what I've come to expect out of Tom Clancy in particular.
Yeah.
And I love that. I think it's brilliant, and it's fun sometimes to go in with a group of random pugs that you don't know and be like, okay, can we actually make this happen? Can we cooperate enough to do this? I think if you have a group that's already well organized, you're just going to find it easy.
Sure. Which having a challenge where it's not too difficult, like it's not impossible difficult, like it's a proper challenge to where you actually have to act like a squad in a group, I think would be a nice little change to a game, because I feel like that doesn't happen enough at all.
I'm thinking this sounds more like Ghost Recon than Ghost Recon Wildlands actually was, which was basically Splinter Cell open world,
which are all Tom Clancy games. It's funny how that works.
Yeah, they just keep swapping which game is which without actually altering the name. Oh, by the way, just quick news blur before we're done here. There's a new Splinter Cell game happening. They literally just announced it in a tweet.
I've heard this.
Yeah, that was like, it's one of the most. And then immediately afterwards, NASA's like, oh, by the way, I'm going to set up a base on the moon. Like in the same week. That just both happened. Low-key announcements. But sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, I again, I can't recommend it enough. I think that it's what I would like. I think what I want to hear is if there's any other folks that have experience with FPS type games, whether it's like CS:GO, other Tom Clancy games, whatever. I would love to if they've played the Division 2, what their thoughts on the game is versus my experience, because a lot of my experience with FPS games are fantasy based, like Halo and Destiny and whatnot. The closest thing to realistic that I've played, it was like SOCOM U.S. Navy SEALs, and that was over a decade and a half ago.
Halo's a fantasy game?
Sci-fi fantasy, absolutely it is. You're gonna tell me that Halo is not sci-fi fantasy?
Oh, there's fantasy elements, and the thing is, they've been leaning to that more. But like in the spectrum of shit, maybe I've just played way more shooters. But like, Halo Combat Evolved leans way more to military sim than a lot of the sci-fi stuff.
I would beg to differ. I would beg to differ.
I beg to differ right back at you, madam.
Because here's the thing about this, right?
Fight,
Master Chief can just sit out there, go guns blazing like Rambo style, and be okay. And a game like what I'm talking about with the Division 2 or any game like that, you cannot do that. If you do that,
I'm not
you
saying that
will.
Halo is the most realistic thing ever or anything like that. I'm just saying that like it's a lot more grounded than some other. There's even someone that tried to use the aesthetic of something like the Division and are not realistic in the slightest.
Oh, there's nothing about I never said that the Division was realistic. It's more realistic. It's perspective on the situation, right? Like if you want realistic, go play Arma.
Well, yes, obviously.
Right?
Arma
Like,
is just, it's like
that is
the
realistic.
person who wants to have to be using a protractor in their first-person shooter.
Right. So, but if you want something that's rooted in realism, but is still fun in the sense that it brings like action roleplay to, or like action elements to the game, Tom Clancy's the way to go. When you start talking about games like Destiny and Halo, don't get me wrong, they're great games for what they are. They're just different type of shooting games. They are different. I would categorize them as sci-fi fantasy action FPS.
Oh, I'll definitely argue Destiny is a fantasy. Like, the only thing that makes it not be literally just high fantasy is the fact that you're using guns. But
So you'd agree that
how is Halo so different?
I feel like Halo falls more into the military sci-fi category of things. It's a lot more in the vein of things. It was literally inspired in multiple ways by stuff like Aliens, which, yes, high concept, very speculative fic, but also stuff that follows a bit more realism. They actually build up reasons to explain things as to why the hell Master Chief can flip a tank or can survive a landing, whereas in Destiny it is... its power is dark, but it's also light, but it's also dark.
Well,
that's kind of what makes it different for me.
One of the arguments that I hear about how it's more military based is the fact that there's a military. But I mean, if you want to talk about how that's makes it more military based, then the Battle for Gondor was a military game because there was a military involved. There was an army involved. Look,
I'm not talking about in terms of just there being simply a military presence. I'm talking about the procedural way they handle things and all of the different logistics that are going into it. I'm saying it feels more, for me, I'm going, like, the thing is, though,
he's a petty chief. No, Master Chief is really a petty chief. There are so many more commanding officers that would have court-martialed him for not listening to directions. No, absolutely not.
Which is why I wanted Halo 5 to do that. I wanted so bad for Halo 5 to be like, you know what? You pushed your luck. You went way over the board. And I was disappointed when they went that. And now everything after Halo 5, I will agree, is based, or actually, Halo 5 and onward, oh, absolutely fantasy, because it looked like we were actually going to bring this home, and then whatever the hell came out of that development hell was released instead.
So as an outside person here, I'm going to award the points to Mish on this one, simply because the goalposts have just changed to after Halo 5 it is definitely this, but before it it's not. There's been an admission.
Yeah. I'm not saying that having something that's like sci-fi fantasy is like a lot of our other games are no, because there's so many other games that are a lot of fun. Like another game that is sci-fi fantasy based that I love to death. I kind of wish it didn't die like it did. Is Section 8 Prejudice. That's another one. Like it has elements that, like, yes, you're a part of a military force that does things by the actions that you do, but it's all sci-fi fantasy, like the way it operates and whatnot.
Section 8 is also its own unique ball of wax for a whole dozen of other reasons. Like, oh, we just orbitally drop every single soldier in individually because that's financially feasible.
So they run things like the U.S. Army. I mean, I don't see what the problem is. Never mind. But whereas that is the thing, I wouldn't say that these Tom Clancy games are like they're sci-fi. Don't like they are sci-fi, right? But
I see. The thing is, I also am willing to see that some of them go like there are people who think that Splinter Cell Conviction goes too much into the Jason Bourne sort of territory, into being just too much. And for me, Splinter Cell Blacklist is absurd in just you can literally just throw proximity mines that activate and take out an entire squad of enemies and no one notices. Just like it leaps beyond that point. But also I will grant that, like the Division, I'm glad to hear that it's actually requiring squad tactics and thinking hard. And I also love they changed the health system to make that actually make more sense with the armor chunks.
Yes.
Instead of just being, this random janitor with a submachine gun can take 500 rounds to the face.
Yeah, which is really nice. Like I have an M700, and there have been a few times where I get my opportunity shot and I shoot him right in the face, and then drops the person because I shot them in the face. That's kind of what's supposed to happen when you do that. Or that if if they're wearing a helmet with ballistic gear or whatever, they can take a couple more. It makes more sense. I don't know. Actually, as far as like these shooting type of games and how they handle and whatnot, Nox, you've done a fair amount of shooting and whatnot. What's your take based on what you've seen on like the Division and how that plays versus other type of shooting games that are popular recently?
I mean, I've always been someone who's been more into like CS:GO and Rainbow Six Siege. Things, you play rounds for like 30 minutes, 40 minutes, something like that. I did try Division 1. I'm someone who's never really been into the whole grindy aspect of games.
Sure.
So it made it very hard for me to continue with that game. I gave it probably till I got to like level 15 or something, and then after that I just said, this really isn't for me.
Sure.
But I can appreciate it definitely, and I definitely enjoy watching other people play it. But I'm someone who likes just quick in and out kind of stuff, and
no,
so
that makes sense. No, that makes perfect sense. And if you're playing that type of longer scale, or I guess a shorter scale squad based like CS:GO or Rainbow Six, it is definitely a different type of play style. While respectably similar in the sense that you can still appreciate one game while playing a different one. I think one of the reasons I was attracted more to this one than say Rainbow Six in my taste is because like one of the Destiny's one of the games I play a lot, and Diablo. I've been playing Diablo since the original Diablo for the number of years that I wish not to actually say out loud right now, because it's been that many years playing Diablo. And it's all the same concept, right? Diablo, you're mowing down demons, but you're taking out things that have better loot, and you're upgrading your loot, and it's something I've always appreciated. So yeah,
Mhm.
Division 2, been playing a lot of Division 2. Another couple games, I got a couple more I can list off quick, is Forager. Played that a couple weeks ago on stream,
Ooh, yeah.
which I'm glad I took Hippo up on that recommendation. It was a lot of fun. I greatly enjoyed it. I will definitely play it again. The concept and the ability to grasp it is really easy to get a hold of, but it doesn't make it a shallow game. It was a lot deeper than I would expect based on how easy it is to navigate how to operate the game or how to play the game. But yeah, I had a lot of fun with it.
What is it that you've enjoyed so much? I've heard a lot, but like for those who haven't played the game before.
I like the idea of this exploration. Like, you're not just given, you plop down a little thing, a little island, and then you just kind of build up in your way out. Gathering resources doesn't feel like a chore when you're trying to get resources to build up other like upgrades to your weapons or utilities like your shovel or whatnot. There's collecting, like if you've played Stardew Valley and you've collected stuff at a museum, there's an aspect like that. There's other aspects. I don't know. It was enough to keep me engaged. The thing is like the various like small things that you do throughout the game, it was enough to keep me engaged on what I was doing, and I think maybe that's why I enjoyed it.
Okay.
There wasn't really any point except for maybe one spot in the entire game where I was like, all right, well, this is getting repetitive. That didn't happen too often, which I enjoyed. So I played that, and then I dabbled back into Guild Wars 2 this past week with the launch of the season finale of Living World season 4. Yeah, so chapter 6 of season 4.
I'm hearing it's been pretty definitive with that one. Like, I've heard some people being like, how do you go from here at this point?
Well, so to no surprise that anyone who follows Guild Wars lore, you ended up in the middle of the ocean. By the way, spoilers for anyone that hasn't done this and cares. But you end up in the middle of the ocean, the unending ocean between Ore and an unexplored continent in Guild Wars 2, but you do in the original game, which is Cantha. So maybe, just maybe, we're heading towards Cantha. I'm just going to put that out there.
I started with Guild Wars factions when I got into Guild Wars, so... Ooh,
So
boy.
this makes sense to you, Dizza, I take it. Yeah, so you... what ends up happening, and the one thing about this chapter that got me, that was just like, really, guys, is I talked about it there. I forget which Newbcast it was, but I talked about how Areen, the dragon, that is with you since season 2, just abruptly dies, and it sucked. Like, a ton of the player base was upset. They were pissed, right, that they killed off this dragon, which is a vital part. And you start off this chapter going, you go back to the cave where she died, and you're talking to your guildmates, and they're like, well, what's next? And your character's like, there is nothing to do next. Go back to your loved ones and say goodbye, because Kralkatorrik was going to win. And all of a sudden, Keith starts pulling crystals out of Arena so they can put her to rest, and all of a sudden you're able to bring her back to life like right away. And it's like you completely negated her death. Like, it made it weakens the reason she died.
Avengers approach to things.
Oh, she's Arene Jesus Christ at this point. That's basically what it was. I kid you not.
I guess we needed a new Dragon Age. I just didn't expect it to be coming from ArenaNet instead of BioWare.
Right. Yeah, no. Like, because they even said she had to die to learn. It's like that. Look, I've heard this story before. It's a 2,000-year-old story.
At least her death didn't drag on.
Oh, God. Ouch.
Sorry, I gotta go.
Yeah. Right? Jeez. Get out. I love it. For those that are not watching live right now, the chat, like, everyone is using the ban command on him for that one. So I just want to put that out there. So yeah, I guess anyone. Thanks for watching. I just
Shame.
pretty much.
Shame.
No.
Damn it all to me.
The thing is you end up chasing Kralkatork into the mists. I think it would have made a lot more sense that you were able to encounter Irene in the mist. Like if you could have encountered her there, that would have made a lot more sense because you ended there anyway. I think if you would have gone there to chase Kralkatork, if you encountered her the same way that you encountered Glint, that would have made a lot more sense, and it would have give payment to her death, make it more important. Because while we had to wait like 3 months or whatever to get that aspect of the story where she was resurrected. If you play like 2 years from now, of new players playing through the game, they finish chapter, they leave the cave where she dies. You start the next chapter in Lion's Arch, which takes you back to the cave where she died, and you resurrect her right away. It's like 10 minutes passes.
Yeah. And I can't help but feel, because I remember when that took place, you, along with many other people in Guild Wars, saying, this is absolutely horrible. Why are you taking one of my favorite characters? I feel like this is an example of bad fan response. Like, yes, that is an awful scenario. That is a tragic scenario. Own it, hold on to it, and recognize, yeah, this is what your plan is. You can see where the plot line was supposed to go because, yes, you go into that area where you would have had that information.
Yep.
Like, it's all very clear at that point to me, just like clockwork almost. Hey, we're upset people are leaving. We better make sure that they don't leave. We're going to bring her back.
Yeah, and there's, I mean, I wish I would have just thought that out more. Like, how could you not expect that, especially with the amount of a dedication that you gave to this character in the first place? Like, what did you expect? The way you wrote her was that we were supposed to love this character.
I just guess all that fan love tips the scales.
Well, and the thing is like, while I say this, I firmly believe that fans should not dictate your story, right? I firmly believe that fans should not dictate it, but if they're going to have a reaction to something, be prepared for like whatever step you take next. So if you kill a character and just bring them back, like, the fans may not always react best to that. Like, am I surprised she came back to life? No. Am I surprised in the matter she did because of how quick it was? Yes.
Can I bring up something from the writer standpoint for this? It's just
Sure.
like, believe it or not, grappling with how to kill off characters has been something interesting for me because that's the thing that's coming up later down the line in the campaign for the current scenario, and it's like, I have to handle choosing which of these characters is going to die. I have to choose how it's going to happen. It was something I was actually discussing with another writer I know, and his response was kind of like, sometimes you can really make it elaborate and everything. Sometimes it needs to be sudden and it needs to just leave you bitter and frustrated. Sometimes death isn't fair. Sometimes it just happens.
Well,
and
sure.
So it's like, I kind of feel like, yeah, I'm agreeing with you all here in that it sounds like the dragon should have stayed dead, because even if you built all this character, even if you did all these things, there's been times where it's worked. In fact, probably the best example would be the Injustice comics by Tom Taylor. He has basically been giving a masterclass in how to handle character deaths beautifully.
Sure. Well, and they're because the end result was you kill Kralkatork, which is an elder dragon, and Irene becomes the new elder dragon of that type of magic. But by the way, that's what happens. Spoilers again. I think that the way they did the story, as far as that portion of it and her departure, I thought they did that well. Their telling of how all this magic actually ends up as a corruption to these dragons, and there's more to these elder dragons. Like, it adds more questions. It makes it adds a level of to the story's lore that makes you want to know more, and it's engaging. It makes you want to play more or learn more about it, and that is a good way about going writing. If you can get people to go, I need to know more about this, then you've done something right, I would think, because it keeps people engaged. As far as people dying unfairly, yeah, I think that is something that you have to understand. To borrow the reactions to a popular TV series recently, it wasn't really fair to watch someone that everyone hated, they love to hate, instead of die in a horrible death, just gets crushed by a giant rock. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sorry. For the rest of you, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Spoilers.
Killer Croc. It was a big rock.
It was a big rock.
It was a big rock.
You could almost say it was castle size. Yeah, no. So I think that is a firm reminder that sometimes those deaths aren't fair. But yeah, I think that rounds up all the games I've played. Division, Grand Theft Auto. I suppose the only other thing to mention is Pokemon Go, because there was a community event today, but
oh, that's what I forgot. I got myself into a little bit of Hey You Pikachu again after finally finding my cartridge, which,
nice.
By the way, Nintendo cartridges, as it turns out, they're kind of small. They're easy to lose.
Yes, they are. Yeah, no, the community event today was Torchic. I managed to catch 2 shinies. So I've got a Blaziken shiny and a Torchic shiny now, so yay.
I don't recall, do you have the Hey You series? And have you taken your Pokemon from Pokemon Go over to it?
I have not done that yet. I do have a the Hey You series. I've got the Eevee one.
Yeah.
So if you have Pikachu, we may have to talk about some trading later.
We shall indeed. And I don't know why I need to be Sean Connery right now, but I do.
Oh, I'm fine with it. I like Sean Connery Dizza even more than Sony Dizza. Now we just need to find a way to combine the two.
No, that is unholy.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. No streams have all this power, but it will.
I think it would require an episode of Celebrity Jeopardy to make that sort of combination possible.
I'm going to make a few calls.
So I suppose we should go ahead and maybe get into our first subjects for the night.
Do we actually want to talk about games?
Yeah, I know. We occasionally do that. I wanted to tread lightly on this one because we've covered them so much, but Epic Game Store.
So, I mean, we've talked before, and this is interesting because I think we can take 2 very interesting sides on this. We've talked before about the Epic Game Store and being able to have some sales that compete with Steam. That's fantastic. That's great. Let's get some competition in the market, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Which I agree with. I like the idea that they're attempting that.
Giant asterisk.
Yeah. I think the idea of putting games that are not even released yet on sale was probably not a great strategy. And I realize this comes at the fault of miscommunication between Epic and certain developers.
Oh yeah, apparently even like developers themselves, that was the issue of Hades, was they were already apparently planning to do a price hike that they did not communicate. So first it was for sale really cheap, and the thing is, for me, I'm kicking myself because I saw the new John Wick game was only $8 for the pre-order, and it's okay, later tonight I'm getting that. I come back to it that night and it's everything has gone up in price.
Yep.
Because every developer freaked out at the discounts, and if you could all just find a middle ground here.
Although, I think this is really good, because it's kind of like going to that one department store that I'm not going to name in case I ever get sponsorships. You can work with me. But that one department store that has their t-shirts at $80, but hey, they're 60% off. So you only have to spend $35 on this t-shirt. It's great. It's a great deal.
It sounds like how certain pillow deals go too. Yeah, no. This one's I feel like is really double-edged, right? Because what is it? Vampire the Masquerade 2 was one of the games that was affected by this, where because of a miscommunication, it was in pre-order and then it was discounted, and it's only discounted at the Epic Game Store, but because it was on sale the way it was, it now devalued the game overall, because that's what sales ultimately do, because you're trying to get people to continue to buy at a slightly lower rate. And at full rate, you'll get some sales still because there's engagement and interaction with it again, but that's kind of what sales do. So if you kneecap it out of the gate.
See, I do want to add the quick caveat here, though. This is not something unique to Epic. This is something that we need to acknowledge. It's been a practice in the industry for certain websites for a while now. Green Man Gaming has been doing this for literally almost a decade at this point. Their whole deal is, you can get brand new games from us before release for only $40 instead of $60. That has been their mantra for a while. They even recently did it with Resident Evil 2 and Devil May Cry 5. So it's like, it's not that nobody ever does this, but considering Epic's been trying to convey this whole message of putting developers first, it's much more awkward. And the nice thing is that all of the games that were bought, they are respecting those sales. Yep. Gearbox even went out and 2K were like, we're going to let you get Borderlands 3, even if you did get it for $10 or $20 off.
Yep.
But it's like...
Which is...
It also, I think it really does communicate something that that a lot of people don't understand, which is that organizing a sale like this takes a lot of work, and I think it's the one thing that Epic really underestimated. They've, like, for all of the things that have concerned us, they have been doing a remarkably good run of things, and then suddenly they finally got bit in the ass. They finally tripped up on something.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me wonder.
Yeah.
Because we've seen other systems who go into sales like Steam sales, and we know that it's much more relaxed now when it comes down to a big Steam sale, for example.
Well, I think one of the big things with the Steam sale, I'm glad you brought this up, Dizza, and I'm sorry to completely drounce you on this, but the Steam sales are opt-in. Most developers will opt in for this, right? But it's an opt-in. That's why you see Factiro at was it $20 or $30, and it never changes in price. It's always the same price because the developer never opts in. They never do. The Epic Game Store, it opted everyone in. There was communication about the sale. Like, it wasn't they did communicate, they did not blindside developers, so let's make sure that is clear, right? But you are automatically opted in instead of given the option to opt in. And
plus, there was the whole thing where they were taking an extra $10 off regardless of whatever discount the developers agreed to, which and the thing is, this is an assumption of mine. I wouldn't be surprised if Epic was taking the hit for that, because we've heard before that they are apparently doing that for things.
Yeah.
But still, that's also going to cause some sticker shock for every developer and publisher who sees that on their game.
Yeah. And from everything I've heard and read, it's been Epic that has taken the hit, and at least they're the ones that are taking it and they're willing to take that hit. So I'll give that to them. The only other aspects about the sale, and I love the fact that they're actually trying to do sales. They're trying to do something from the consumer engagement side of it instead of just going after developers all the time. Is there's still no shopping cart. So if you want to buy a game or buy multiple games, you got to buy a game, and then you got to buy another game, and then you got to buy another game, and you do them all individually. But if you buy too many games because of the sale, the fraud alert kicks in.
Ooh, a piece of candy.
And then it locks down your account.
Oh, I didn't know that, because I did that the other day. I bought 5 games on sale, and I wonder what the cutoff is.
That's a good question. That part, from when I was looking into this, I didn't get a flat out, like, this is how many games I bought. It was a couple of people that were ranting about how their account got locked down, and it's because they were buying multiple games from the Epic Game Store.
Yeah.
Which a shopping cart would do that, or the other thing is that the ability to buy for a friend, which, because there are games on there that's like, yeah, I'd love to have that game. And it would be awesome if Dizza here decided he wants to buy it for me instead of me buying it. That'd be great, right? But that's not an option available. That's not an
option available, Mish.
No, it's not. Which is actually something that I was ranting about. Like, if you go back to my Twitter account from the past week when I was trying to get the Division 2, that was something I ranted about. Because the Division 2 you can either buy from Ubisoft or you can buy it from the Epic Game Store. That's it. But there's no way to buy it as a gift for someone else. And I feel like all you're doing is you're hindering sales. Like, why would you not want to try to have increased, even if it's a small margin, let's say it's only 5%, that is a 5% increase in sales that you wouldn't otherwise have. That being said, a positive to it, one of the positives is the fact that they're accepting PayPal now.
Yeah, that was really nice, because that has been the one stopgap where it was like, yep,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be able to use your platform. I'll gladly take all your free stuff.
Yeah.
But also, there is one other positive from the other side of things, and that's something I noticed recently, is that it seems like because Epic, and for the record here, the Steam sale dates leaked, and it wasn't too long before, or too long after that this Epic Game sale started, co-opting their thunder there.
Yep.
But also, there's been some Steam sales where they put effort in, and it wasn't just for friggin' trading cards. Like, there was for the Ludo Narrative Con. They not only advertised a ton of otherwise under-the-radar adventure games, but they got exclusive demos that were specifically for the sale to incentivize people trying it. They had unique categories. They actually put effort in. There were custom assets on the store. It was like someone actually gave a damn for 10 seconds at Valve about actually running Steam. So this is what I've been saying from the beginning is, even if the Epic Store is incredibly frustrating, even if it becomes the evil empire, so long as that means that Valve gets their crap together, great! Then we at least have one storefront trying.
I don't disagree with that rant.
With no dark, there is no light.
Right. I suppose though, I would ask what games would you want from the sale, but let's kick off with what did you get from the sale, Nox?
Oh, let's see. I got Heavy Rain, Beyond Two Souls, Observation, which is coming out on the 21st, I believe.
Okay.
And then, let's see. I guess I didn't buy it, but it was the Untold Stories that was on there for free. And
Oh, yep.
I don't have my Epic up right now, but there was another one. Let me see. But I'm excited for Observation. You get to play as a space station. Like, how cool is that?
That could be fun. Yeah, absolutely. Now, is that something that you'll be streaming? Because if you are, I may actually make sure to make a point to pop in for that.
Yeah, I think I'll be starting that on Tuesday.
No, that's
Nox 9000.
okay.
And, yeah, Walking Dead and the Metro Exodus.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
all good.
That's a few. There's a couple of interesting ones in there. All right. You two, I don't suppose either of you bought any games. So what would be something that you'd want to get from the sale out there this coming?
The John Wick game.
Okay.
World War Z, which is apparently actually really good. Like, it is apparently surprising. Like, finally, Saber Interactive has put out a good new game in close to a decade now, and an original game for them at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, Close to the Sun. That was the other one that was like I was really interested in that. I'm tempted by the prospect of being able to play Heavy Rain and Beyond Two Souls on PC, but I have them both for PS3 already, so it feels kind of redundant. I do look forward to trying Detroit, though. I'm told about how laughable and absurd it is, but I just kind of have to play it at some point. Like, I'm very pissed off at Quantic Dream for all the accusations I'm hearing about them, so it's like, I'm not getting this thing at full price. I am waiting till it is discounted, and I am very cross with you, David Cage, you pretentious asshat. But also, I really want to experience the game simply because it sounds so crazy and bonkers that it sounds completely up my alley.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
What about you? Does any games that you'd want to be like, yes, that?
I haven't really had the chance to go through a full exploration, but I can say, yes, Detroit Become Human is absolutely amazing. I think you'll really enjoy it. It does feel really bad when you get just a bad roll on something, because there's some objectives that are just not 100% possible.
Yeah, he does like to do that in his games.
Yeah.
Even with the best of circumstances. And, it's a good metaphor for life, but I don't like it as a game mechanic.
Fair. For myself, I think Detroit would be one that would get my attention. Just kind of looking at it. That, or what was the other one that jumped out at me? Like, yeah, that would be. Oh yeah, there you go. If you're about sim games, Roller Coaster Tycoon is definitely. Yeah.
That's fair. I mean, I don't know if Cyberpunk specifically is getting like a pre-order offer.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
If it were, I would. I know I am breaking a law, and Mish is going to punish me severely for it. But I like Cyberpunk so much, and I'm so bought into the concept of it that even if it's crap, I'd be willing to pre-order it at cash discount.
Thou shalt not pre-order.
I'm already sold. That's the problem. I am already sold.
You want to wait on CD Projekt. They always patch things so much that you're better off just waiting a few months anyway.
Yeah. Gosh, now you don't even see the other game but Detroit is definitely one of the big ones that jumps out at me. Like, yeah, I would jump on that one. Everything else, like, yeah, maybe if again it was something that were gifted, I would probably jump on it. But yes,
Hades.
Huh?
Hades is also one that I've been hearing marvelous things about. It's the latest one by Supergiant, the same people who made like Transistor and Bastion. It is supposedly wonderful, and for some people who frigging hate early access, they are actually saying that it's been one of the best early access experiences they've ever had. Like, it is actually being supported and evolved based on community feedback and made into an even better game every step of the way.
Okay. Yeah, otherwise, I guess that's it. Or Maneater. I've been waiting for Maneater for almost a year now. That's the only other one that's on here that'd be like, but there's not even a price attached to that one, so that's not even an option. So, I suppose I was gonna take the break after that topic, but I think, Elijah, you brought up a great point about CD Projekt, and a recent statement from them.
Oh my gosh, yes. Oh my friggin' gosh.
So CD Projekt promises more humane crunch times, as reported by PC Gamer. Can we just go on record and saying that there's nothing humane about crunch times?
Yeah. I feel like that is... What am I looking for? It's like low sodium salt. Really. It is a thing that exists, by the way, if you're not familiar with low sodium salt.
Wait, low sodium salt?
Uh-huh.
Isn't that an oxymoron?
It is. But what it is they make salt crystals that have more surface area.
Okay.
And so it's lighter. And so for the teaspoon of salt that you would put into something, you're actually getting less salt. Therefore, it is lower sodium. That is exactly how I feel about this, though. It's like, well, we know that this is a bad thing. We're going to give people the option of not having to be in one of these crunch periods, because that's not going to help them at all with their career in the industry. And that's the easy answer, right? Because if a company says, hey, we are not going to require and allow people to have extended hours during crunch time, then it's on the developer. And then the people who may be employed on their next project can say, well, you know what? My developer did it this way. That was just the matter of the beast. I know what I'm getting into over here. And I get that I might have this chance of a crunch time and having to deal with inhumane situations. And why am I even applying to this place? Oh, I'm in an awful industry. But if it's an optional one, then the decision ultimately ends up being laid on the programmer, who's going to say, there's no way on earth I'm going to do it. So they're going to get the same production during crunch time because nobody's willing to risk it.
There's that, plus also, I just want to point out that the policy that they're describing here, the thing that makes me particularly pissed is it expresses just how, excuse my very intense language here, it's the exact fucking shit that we heard about with Rockstar. This is the exact same that, yes, you can technically go home and eat, but everyone will glare at you and judge you. There is a cult mentality around crunch. Just, my gosh, how can you be this tone deaf?
Well, and here's the thing: when it comes to projects like this, like, if you had a decent project manager, crunch time would be minimal at best. And like, crunch time is not something that's exclusive to the gaming industry. Like, when I did stuff with press related work, we had crunch times too. It was right before press time, and or print time, excuse me. And you were basically trying to make sure everything got done, but even then, like, it was only like in a week an extra 10 hours. Like, that's standard overtime for a lot of places, which that happens, and that's okay. But the idea, oh yeah, we put in 100 hours this week, which is, anyone that does that should feel like they did a great job and are dedicated to the cause. No, stop that. That is bad for everyone.
It's a job. It's not a lifestyle.
Yeah, agreed.
Or at least it shouldn't have to be.
I
But
mean,
people are being forced into that decision.
I don't know. I feel like that it's become such a expected thing to occur in the industry that it's like, oh, we'll just make it sound like it's better. And it's like, why not try to, I don't know. I mean, when it comes
this
to...
solves nothing.
No, it really doesn't.
This solves nothing, and it's nice words that can, for a brief moment, be recognized by PR, but like, anybody who's even vaguely understanding of the situation knows that is career suicide. Like, that's not going to happen. People aren't going to do it. It's not going to be functional. And they're utilizing culture of other companies to create or to establish that they're the good guy, and really it's everybody. It's wrong. It's just wrong, and it's a very, very vague illusion.
And it's something that concerns me, especially because this whole idea of we're the good guys has been a narrative with CD Projekt for a while now. As far back as them being DRM free, as far back as them starting GOG, as far back as how they handled The Witcher 3's post-launch support and everything. And I'm just thinking, how much of that was handled with this sort of mentality towards everything going on inside of the company? Because everybody loves to go on about, like, how, oh, Blood and Wine is like a whole standalone game in of itself. Yeah, it is. It's a post-launch DLC that's long as a full game. I wonder how many man-hours went into that.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I completely, I don't know how to, maybe just, we can go quick round on this. Like, if you hear about a game that you're interested in, and then all of a sudden you're finding that these developers are suddenly doing twice the amount of work that they would normally do because they are at crunch time, how does that make you feel about getting the game or purchasing the game? We'll start with Elijah.
I gotta say, it makes me very conflicted. It's very much a delicate balancing act because, like, think about with BioWare. If Dragon Age Inquisition hadn't done as well as it had, if it hadn't released in a drought year, they might have actually had a change in practices. Ironically, sales hurt them. Whereas in other cases, sales are the only way that a developer is going to keep their job. So, like, I'm very conflicted with NetherRealm right now because I love their work. I love their story modes. They've been making some of the few fighting games that I can actually play. But also, I'm hearing all of these horrendous things, and it's like, for a while now, I've been trumpeting about how great these games have finally been becoming, and now I feel like as if I should, do I retract all those words or not? Because they're still making good stuff, but at what cost? It's a really complicated issue to just give a yay or nay on, because there's so many factors, and no one wants to fix the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a little bit of Blood Diamonds, right?
Sure. Nox, how does that impact your interest in a game or your purchasability of a game, if you hear about something like that.
I mean, it's definitely what's kept me from purchasing Red Dead Redemption 2. You know, hearing that they're working 90 plus hours a week, that, I don't know, it's not worth it to me. But also at the same time, you know, I don't know, I kind of also want to check it out. So it's, you really have to, you know,
It
have
sounds
a little morality battle in your.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like you're kind of conflicting yourself with the principle of this overtime or this crunch time situation versus the desire to play a game.
Yeah, I mean, I did the same thing with Subnautica. It wasn't like wasn't about crunch time. It was more one of devs or multiple were saying a lot of sexist things on Twitter, and that just kind of made me say, you know what, I'm not interested in playing that. But
Fascinating. That's actually something I wasn't aware of. So now I'm kind of curious. Interesting. Yeah. No. I think I'm in a very similar boat. It's kind of one of the two things that kind of led me away from Red Dead Redemption 2. So I can completely understand that stance. Dizza?
So there's one assumption about this, and I think the clear message for me is that I hear that I'm definitely influenced not to get into that game, certainly not right away. Maybe I consider something like, well, gosh, if they didn't have the crunch time for this long, yeah, the game would have come out later. Based off of how long that is, maybe I can make some calculus for how much I'm willing to actually like wait in order to get the game or something like that. But my purchase on its own doesn't make much of a statement to these companies one way or the other.
Yeah.
So I don't feel like I'm getting a big impact on it. And I think more importantly, this assumes that I know that that game went through a crunch time period where things were expected of them that were extreme.
Sure.
I'm not going to hear about that probably for about 95% of the games that have a crunch time.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good point.
That's
too.
my guess.
That's
my guess.
You're not wrong. Based on everything I've heard from developer friends, you are not wrong, and that is actually why it's been so frustrating, even with the coverage of things like Anthem and all of that, is that it has been laser focused on one game and kicking the stuffing out of one game or one specific developer, whereas it is an industry-wide issue, and we keep not treating it like it. We keep treating it like it's an individual case of things. Like, this one person has measles. We're going to cure this one person and poke and prod at them. Instead of, actually, it's a spreading disease that's been existing for a while. We should probably just stop the whole source.
Mm-hmm. I think my reaction is this. If I hear that a game company is committed to not having a crunch period and making it mandatory for their team to work a limited work week, and you know what, I can accept something like, like if it's a crunch time of 50 hours, sure, I get that. It's more hours than what you should be working in a week. You're in a situation like that happens, that's fine. But to get to the point where people can't live their lives, cannot see their family, their friends, the things that make their life meaningful to live for an extended period of time, like, that's a problem. Yeah. I would love to see a few companies take a line in the sand on that, and I will tell you, even if I don't necessarily agree with your game, I will probably purchase that as a statement.
Sure. I'm of a similar mind in that sense with you, Dizza, that when it comes to rewarding companies with your purchase, like, that shouldn't be limited to who you're not going to buy, but it should also be an impact on who you do buy. If I were to hear about a game that had a project timeline, and they determined what the project timeline was, and if the end of the line was not met the way that they were projecting, they adjust and have a new timeline, and this game's going to be delayed based on what we've seen on our timeline. We're going to have it released this many months later. And if they have that type of announcement, if they say that, you've got my attention, and I'll likely buy, because you're showing that you're taking responsibility for it. You're going, all right, So our projection on what we expected this game to make wasn't what we expected, and instead of punishing our team, we're just gonna work on it longer and make a new projection based on everything that we've seen up to this point. And I think that definitely needs to be rewarded.
How many Blizzard games have I bought that said this game is going to be ready when it's ready? Trademark.
Yeah, no. Blizzard is notorious for delaying a lot of this stuff, and that's not a bad thing.
I also just want to add real quick here that another great thing that would probably help decrease crunch and maybe even, decrease the budget of some games is if we stopped striving for photorealism in every game on the planet, because there's actually other aesthetics that, worked really well. And it's almost like that's why so many games in the PlayStation 2 generation existed, because you only needed 60 people instead of 700, because you wanted to make sure that every water droplet on that assault rifle in Call of Duty, I don't know, whatever the hell is coming out next, they apparently can't even decide right now. They're it's literally just changing tracks crazy. That's a whole other thing that apparently is in a developing story. Instead of that, I could play any of these number of smaller scale games that, they might have a lower poly aesthetic, or they might use a cartoonish style, or cell shading. All these different things that exist. There's even types of realism that aren't ultra real, that are feasible. I mean, Arma is a huge ass game. It's still made by a small number of people. You don't have to be this blunt hammer. It's part of what's pushed us so far to this point, and it's why we're seeing so fewer games come out. Because, seriously, compare what we got in 7th gen in terms of franchises versus 8th gen, where you're lucky if you got one entry in a series that you liked. Mm-hmm. Maybe 2. Far Cry was the remarkable exception of having more than 2. Yeah. And that involved a lot of acid flipping.
I don't disagree with that idea that, some of the extra details, but I feel like the part of the reason to do that is because that bar keeps getting bumped up, and that's part of what leads to the problem. While that ultra realism can definitely impact a timeline of the game, I think just proper time management helps too, and I think we saw that with Anthem. Yeah. Anthem probably wouldn't have had the problems that it had if that time management was done properly.
Oh yeah, and if they'd actually gotten someone to sit down and be like, okay, we need a cohesive vision. The thing is, reading the story on Anthem, and this is the thing that still gets me, is that it reminds me of too many volunteering situations I've been in.
Sure.
Where no one wants to make a definitive call. It's not that they didn't have the resources, it's not that they didn't know what to do. For a game made in a year and a half, they put it together very quickly. It's kind of absurd how quickly, and yeah. I'm sorry that they didn't actually get to use all the time they had for actual purposes. And for those who haven't read, literally one of the most neat things about it, the jetpack system, was only there because they were told if they didn't have something like that in the game, it was going to be canceled. That's the only real reason they ended up in there, and they still weren't sure if people would like it. This is the sort of industry we're breeding, and it's the same sort of deal like with Red Dead Redemption 2, where there's all these there's sideshow attractions and everything you can go to, but simple things like hunting have been made incredibly simple because they just need to guarantee that the player will do it, because there's just so much absorbing their attention. Well, we are just expanding too much. All the directions. No
feature creep.
There's certain things I think can add to it. I mean, how much of that crunch time was dedicated to the idea that, they're focusing on horseshit, literal horseshit in Red Dead Redemption 2, because that happens.
Gosh.
Hey, poop is important.
I don't need fecal detail.
High resolution. You need to see the emoji popping out of that poop. Just saying.
They were going for the ultimate shit take.
And they succeeded. I think that being said, though, I think this is a fantastic spot for us to go ahead and take our break. So, if you're watching live, we would encourage you to get up, move around, grab a snack, whatever it is you have to do. If you're watching on the YouTubes or listening to the podcast on iTunes, we'll be back in a second. Everyone else, go do the thing. We'll be back in a short bit. Enjoy the music while we are away.
And that's how I knew that this wasn't a standard taxidermy association meeting, and really I just, first it was the hors d'oeuvres, and then, you're staring at this skag from Borderlands hung up from the ceiling, and you're like, I feel like this isn't authentic, and neither is this feather.
Sometimes I really wonder how long it takes them to come up with these things as we're coming back from break. Everyone, welcome back to the Newbcast Podcast. So I have to tell you, the last song there, it took me a minute. I'm like, did that just say Hail Hydra? And
Yes, please.
Yes, that's exactly what it said.
Nice.
So, oh dear, that's a thing that happened. So for the remainder of the show, we have some discussion of just various things that we'd like to see, and just stop bashing ourselves in the face with news, because we've been doing so much of that the last few episodes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So why don't we just kick it off with the discussion, and
Okay.
let's hear from the lot of you a game that you think would benefit a ton from modding.
I don't like modding though.
You don't?
I am a gaming purist.
Oh dear.
Shame, 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 shame.
With the exception of add-ons in World of Warcraft, I have pretty much never even started into real modding.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the same way. It's World of Warcraft and everything else. Never modded anything, but I'm not against it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
As the reason I'm here tangentially is because I started out as a game modder.
it's interesting. So
what-
you're the one that has the most input on this. Like, the three of us are actually kind of vanilla players, it sounds like, overall. Are there games that would benefit from it? Sure. A game that I modded and I think greatly benefited from the modded was Final Fantasy VIII on PC. So instead of the horrible ported tracks that were on the PC version of the game, I had the original orchestrated versions of the songs that were in the original release of the game. And the mod greatly benefited from it. So I think maybe like ports like that where there's licensing issues with games music would benefit from that. Or, I don't know, Elite Dangerous, but I'm biased.
For me, I am always in favor of modding so long as it's properly supported. Because, here's the thing. The first Rage game released mod tools, but there's, next to no documentation, barely any tutorials. It's a full version of the id Tech engine, essentially. And as a result, there's been, maybe 3 maps barely playable released for it. It's powerful stuff. It's the full game, but there's nothing to do with it. Whereas, by comparison, there are full fan expansion packs for Star Wars Battlefront, Knights of the Old Republic, and Jedi Academy. Someone even made a conversation system tech demo in Jedi Academy. Someone made an adventure game in Star Wars Battlefront 2005.
There's our Star Wars reference for the episode, guys. We hit our quota.
Woo!
Oh,
Welcome to the Star Wars Podcast.
You knew it was going to happen with me. But seriously, it's just that is the stuff that really impressed me, is stuff that actually adds substantive content, like how Skyrim is continually being the Beyond Skyrim mod that's adding all the other subcontinents to that whole game. That is amazing stuff, and I also love that mods tend to extend the life of games. So that's why my top pick, and the thing is, one of the developers behind the game even agreed with me because he wished he had his development kit software on his PC. BioShock. BioShock is begging for some fan-made content.
Sure.
It's the perfect setting and environment for that.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is so good at being cookie cutter that you could really see a level editor being designed for it. And the thing is, there are some Unreal games that you can just mod with Unreal Development Kit, but the thing is, BioShock is based on Unreal 2.5, which was a barely used version of the Unreal Engine, and also they modded it so much that when I brought it up to David Pittman in Twitter, he was like, "Yeah, no, that probably wouldn't even get it to load a single level." But it's like I would love that so much, just so much. And if I was going to say any other one that I would really like to see modding open up for a bit is, honestly, since we've seen a little bit, but not what we really could, I would love to see people be able to actually make levels in Resident Evil 2 Remake.
Okay.
That I could see, because like there's tons of character mods and weapon mods and skin mods. Some good, some just
Yes, there are.
There without making her naked. Ridiculousness. And Thomas the Tank Engine is Mr. X because Thomas the Tank Engine is like Shrek. He shows up everywhere now.
Yeah.
Which is just surreal for me because I grew up with Thomas, so it's like I knew I liked this thing, but why is he a dragon now and a monster? I'm so confused.
Oh,
but
yeah.
Yeah, it's like I don't want really the goofy stuff. Like, there's some fun goofy stuff. There's a dramedy mod for Knights of the Republic 2 that's amazing and hilarious as all get out. But I would like just more serious content being made by the community because it's what's made certain games exist. We wouldn't have MOBAs would not exist without mod support. Yeah, sorry, the thunders and the lightning is doing a whole elaborate thing. So if I vanish,
I was waiting for the evil cackle. Mwahahahaha. After that,
oh,
but
let's think that out the next time.
It's just proof that the Thundercats are on the move.
Oh my gosh, today. But
Wait, you don't get to make that statement. What are you talking about? Most of those statements have been made by you today, so at least give me a chance. Give me a chance to jump in and say something on that.
I'm not going to stop you from saying that. I'm honestly, I'm just rambling at this point because of I'm staring at the star. I'm looking at lightning flash outside, and it's like,
I would love to trade with you right now. I would love to trade with you right now. I have no.
Oh my gosh! But yes, for real. I'd love to see. And the thing is, I love that we're finally seeing console mods become mainstream. There are custom maps for Mario Kart.
Mm-hmm.
Breath of the Wild now has full level designer support, so there's the chance of custom dungeons. And there's another person who's made a full mod where you can play as a female Link, and it's even addressed in proper pronouns in the game for his daughter, which is amazing. And
I've seen this. It's amazing.
You know what's one of the craziest modding efforts I've ever heard of that has custom levels and everything? There is one horror FPS released for the Virtual Boy. Seriously, this exists. It's a thing. It's done like a dungeon crawler. There are custom map packs for it. Like, I wasn't surprised when I found out that GoldenEye 64 has ROM hacks, but a Virtual Boy game has mod support. Like, I love that, but I wish we got that for more mainstream games.
So, bringing the other side of the argument here, because I definitely feel this one. I think one of the challenges that comes with mod support is that the vast majority of mods are either of little entertainment value, like, you know, you have your Slim Jim moment in Skyrim. That's great. But those are the things that create memes, right? Those aren't the things that create a lot of experiences. And I think it's very difficult to get that and get something that creates good quality experiences. Very often when I hear about mods and I think about mods, I'm thinking about the things that are like, oh, I don't like how I have to do XYZ annoying thing. I'm just going to mod that out of my game so I don't have to deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
But like in the case of Eco, for example.
Except actually that brings a very good point to my mind. Thank you for mentioning that, because that is actually a case where that was a good thing and it influenced the game's development further on. XCOM 2. For those who don't know, it starts off with this countdown timer where basically if you don't get the mission done in a certain amount of time, you're done. It's going to fail. It's pretty much guaranteed. Or the enemy becomes alert or whatever. But the thing is, it's built like a stealth game, and stealth games are all about not rushing things. So modders were like either adding like twice as long a turn limit. My favorite was actually where it was like, you don't start the countdown until you actually start fighting people, until you start actually engaging in combat. And the thing is, after people responded to that, the developers patched an extended timer in for all future content and for the console versions.
Well, sure, you see that with all sorts of like mods and add-ons to games. I mean, how many? At the beginning of this segment, DizzyG mentioned modding World of Warcraft, and was one of the only things that he did. How many additions to World of Warcraft were made because of mods that were created for it in the first place? Looking like deadly boss mods, quest assist, or quest helper, stuff like that.
Yeah, well, and I think that World of Warcraft and Blizzard did it right because they had very strict limitations as to what you could actually get access to. And so a lot of concepts were not available to the general modder, right? Like, especially in an MMO, it's not like you can do anything to mess around with the economy or stuff like that.
Sure.
The moment you do that, you're going to break the game.
Yep.
And I think those game-breaking mods are what attract a lot of people, but ruin a lot of the fun for me. And so that's why I like having the original concept from what the developer had. And don't get me wrong, I think developers responding to things like, hey, this is a good quality of life improvement over here, that's good. But I also think it's very important to let them have their say and then just agree or disagree to it to a certain extent.
So I guess also we have to define like what type of mod we're discussing. Like, are we talking add-on? Are we talking about a quality of life addition to the game?
Yeah, it's like, it seems the stuff that you're actually against is less what qualify as mods and qualify as hack.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, a lot of actual modding efforts. Like, when I think of a mod, I think of something that adds a level or an NPC or drastically changes the visual style or
Sure.
remasters something or improves it. So if that clarifies where I'm coming from here, that's pretty much where I'm sitting from.
Sure. And when you're talking about changing some of the aesthetics and whatnot of I think games that benefit from that, not to make a blanket statement, but games that greatly benefit from mods, Bethesda games.
Mm-hmm.
Just flat out blanket statement. Because Fallout benefited from it. Elder Scrolls benefited from it. Like Skyrim.
Oh, yeah, close my window.
Yeah, how rude. Gosh, those Thundercats, they're loose.
I don't know. What are some games that you think would benefit from modding, Nox?
I was talking about this earlier with some friends, and they were suggesting like Borderlands 2, Borderlands, and just the series. If that, would you think that would be a good idea? Like creating like other missions, even not even just textures or weapon skins, but creating different types of missions.
Sure, extending the game inside missions. What? Sure, that makes sense.
Yeah, and that's actually that was the things you all just said. I'm not trying to talk. Raises two other valid points because there was Orcs Must Die 2 released mod support. Okay, it opened Steam Workshop, but because their whole monetization scheme was based around DLC, they never released a map editor. So you actually only could make hacks, pretty much, or custom traps. That was the only thing you were allowed to do. Like, it was the weirdest thing ever. And that was really unpleasant. And also, it's like, with Bethesda, my problem is always, it feels like they're relying on the modders at this point. They just kind of assume that whatever they don't fix, someone else is going to patch. So that is the other side where I will agree, actually, a lot with what Diz is saying. Like, you should finish your game. You should not leave it up to someone else to freely outsource to fix it, and then only for the PC version. But also, yeah, I'm right there with Nox in that. Especially, like, Borderlands is basically begging for better side content. A lot of the side missions tend to not be great, and it's so internet humor-centric anyway that I'm sure plenty of people would have like a gonzo amount of fun with it.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, please continue.
Gosh, so Borderlands, okay. What else sticks out is, of course, you know, the funny thing is that, like, when it comes to level editors and level creations and whatnot, I saw even Nintendo making a game out of that period, and you see that with Mario Maker, right? Like that straight out is a gamification of a Mario mod,
And it's
is it not?
brilliant.
Yeah, it really is.
It's brilliant. It's pretty all encompassing, and the things that people requested for gave them an opportunity for a sequel. I like the idea that it gives people the opportunity to be creative in a very specific context and encourages that and celebrates them. I think that's another challenge that can come up with mods, is that because they're not officially supported, they don't get the widespread interest and success and the celebration that something that is good content really does deserve.
It sounds like Thunder has. Does Thor have something to say about this?
Thor is currently experiencing some bad gas.
And we're back to poo.
He is the god of thunder.
Right. It's far. Gosh, I'm just trying to. I feel like kind of hit a circle point. Do we see anything else that can greatly benefit from mods or addition? Like, I feel like overall, almost any game can truly benefit from a mod. Like, there's not a single game that wouldn't benefit from it. It's just how it does not break a game. Is that?
I disagree. I think Bad Rats is a game that cannot be improved ever because it is already so incredibly amazing.
So you've played it.
I may actually have time/played on there.
Oh no.
You might be able to find that on my Steam profile. No guarantees, but I think when I first got it, I might have opened it because I didn't know exactly what was happening.
Okay.
But nothing needs to change about that game. That game is fine the way it is.
I have one last thing to add.
Okay.
This is a perspective of something as in something I'm actually working on. I have, it's a pet project. I've been trying to fix the balancing in Resident Evil Operation Raccoon City. Because this is apparently a fixation for full different people. Like, there was the initial wave of people making a hacksy type stuff. But the thing is, in 2018, someone tried to fix some of the balancing, and they got close. But, like, as soon as you remove the bullet sponge element, it actually makes the game better. Sometimes it's the subtlest changes that can actually save an experience. But it's like, I kind of like that when someone makes a mod for a game that otherwise was struggling, but then improves. Such as, say, Aliens Colonial Marines, when that one guy made one of the most elaborate campaign mods in existence to one of the most hated games in existence, and actually improved it enough that even like professional websites were like, okay, yes, you made it better. It's still an game, but you actually fixed some things. So, like, I like when that happens. I like a game getting a second shot.
Fair enough. Actually, it's funny that you should mention that. Let's shift gears here a little bit. Let's just ask a little bit about this. What is a game that you feel like deserves a second shot because it didn't go over the first time so well?
Oh God.
Apparently, this is show and tell.
So I'll start this one off since it might take a moment.
Okay.
But I am pleasantly surprised to say Final Fantasy XIV.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Talk about a game that had an awful development cycle and was just absolutely horrendous and got transformed into an actually decent MMO that people enjoy and are actively playing. And it's not an insignificant number of people either.
So this isn't a case of a game that deserves a second shot. This was a game that did get a second shot.
It earned a second shot.
Yeah,
100%.
And it pulled through on it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's funny because I had to sit there and think about it. I'm like, what game? And I might have to give thought to it. So we'll do a show and tell with Elijah, and hopefully that gives Knox and myself more time to think about it.
So I'm supposed to get mine?
Yeah.
Time to turn in the assignment.
The game that I wish could be redone, that could be fixed, that could be given another shot. Do I have to pick one? Or can I at least name one other?
You can do a couple.
Okay. Rise of Nightmares. I want someone to take Rise of Nightmares, just like go back in time to when it was being developed, take over Sega so you have direct creative control, and then let's fix this bonkers story so that it's actually like intentionally enjoyable and campy, and double down on the best elements, because who would have thought that motion control based survival horror would be the best game for the Kinect? They could have done so much more with it that they never got to, and it just breaks my heart because it just has been such a better experience than it has any right to be. So I would really like that. And my other one is going to be the one, and this is not an intentional pun here, black sheep of a series that I've actually enjoyed. I would really like to fix Call of Duty Black Ops 2, because like the PvP is fine, the zombies mode is fine, but that campaign is a friggin' train wreck of like 5 different choices that on paper sound great, but in practice, so much that could have been better. Like, the real-time strategy elements do not feel like they were congealed at all. The branching narrative bit makes no sense and is actually really hard to get right to get the right ending unless you know what to do. And above all else, it's the weakest narrative of the entire series. Like, World at War wasn't great, but Black Ops 1 was really sharp and actually remarkably, foreboding for a Call of Duty game. It was genuinely morbid in a way that felt sincere at times. And then Black Ops 3 was Ghost in the Shell meets Call of Duty meets, some bits of Titanfall. Like, this is super high concept. And then there's Black Ops 2 in the middle, which is just like, it has this brilliant idea of drone warfare, but it has no idea how to make it work. It really doesn't. And it takes so damn long and misunderstands what the last one got. And the thing that confuses me is all of these games were made by the same people. They had the same writer, yet somehow the second one just feels like it was made by a separate team on a different planet, speaking in a completely different language, and yet it's supposed to be the same Treyarch team. So I would love to see that remade, and above all else, if there were any other game I would like to see get another shot, and this is more into the remake territory than rather than just they need a ton of fixing, I want to see Nightmare Creatures and Nightmare Creatures 2 get another shot at things, because like Nightmare Creatures 1 is Bloodborne, but not specifically a Souls-like. It's got some Resident Evil elements and also some Devil May Cry elements. Like, I think it would be really popular right now. And currently, the closest thing we got to that is Vampire. And while I love Vampire Death, everybody knows that it wasn't exactly Deadly Creatures. Whereas Deadly Creatures 2 was, what if we combined elements of, 3D Resident Evil games and a fighting game? Why not just combine Tekken with survival horror? This won't at all be odd. Like, I want to see someone try and do that again. I'm not saying it's going to come together perfectly, but I'm saying it would be amazing just to witness.
No, that's fair. Yeah. I don't know. Nox, do you have any games that jump out to you as, yes, that should totally have a remake?
Did Elisha just drop the mic?
I think so.
Like a remake or developed?
A second shot and recreated, remade.
Yeah, and Elijah's just going to be a little in and out because there's potential of a tornado in the neighboring county, so he's going to be keeping an eye on things very closely. He's apologizing for bouncing in and out.
He's actually Thor. It's okay. You can admit it to us. It's fine.
Yes, but I mean, I don't have the beard or the gut, and my hair is still too short right now.
Anyway.
I would like to see Witcher 1, a complete remake of that.
Ooh.
Because, if you've played the entire series, the combat in Witcher 1 is so different from what we get with the later games. And at times with Witcher 1, it kind of made game for me, especially because I went from playing Witcher 2, Witcher 3, back to Witcher 1. So going from a very nice combat system to more of a point and click kind of system was kind of difficult. But I would like to see that game remade
Okay.
because I think that would be good.
Okay. See, I'm still struggling, like, what of something that's like, yes, I must absolutely would love to see that remade. Either because there are the bad games that I play that I enjoy them because they're bad, or they were good games to begin with. So it's a harder one for me. I mean, if anything, maybe if they were to redo, gosh, it's hard. It really is.
Here's a thought. When The Division originally came out, it came out with very little fanfare, and one of the big things that The Division needed was a strong base
Yeah.
of players. Now that The Division 2 has gotten that clout, and reviewers gave it a lot of positive feedback that people eventually kind of caught up on, but then determined, hey, there isn't an audience here right now. If The Division, the original New York version, got a proper relaunch, you actually wouldn't have to change that much, and it probably would be an amazing experience.
Oh, it's got so much stuff in there now that if they, I mean, that was even why they did a whole humble promotion with it, because, like, just there's so much in it now. It's the full package. Yeah, completely. It's just like with Battleborn. They added so much eventually that it suddenly became compelling, but it became compelling way too late in the game.
Sure. It's not a bad game. Actually, you know what? I do know. I have an answer, and this is very obscure and very unique to something that I do around here. We've talked about it before in this podcast because it's very unique in here. Is I would love to see a remake to BattleTech Firestorm 2. I would love to see an updated, upgraded version of that game, and I would love to see it work for the Tesla pods or something, a new incarnation of the Tesla pod. There you go. There's my answer.
I'm good with any new Mech Warriors. Give me Mech Warrior 3 again, please, because that was part of my childhood, and I missed that game so much.
Well, okay, so the reason I'm saying BattleTech 2 is I've talked about, I don't know if you've been on any of the episodes where I've talked about the Tesla 2 pods, but if we were to have the Tesla 2 pods where you actually sit in a cockpit with all the multiple screens and the HOTAS control and had graphics of today instead of graphics from 20 years ago, that would be one hell of an experience. Now, that's not to say that's a bad game that deserves a second chance, but it would be great to see the game get a second chance nonetheless. As we get all the keyboard clickers. Guys, really?
Sorry. I had to double check and see how you could remake it in different styles. And the first thought that came to my mind was, and I had to confirm it, the 1990 movie Robot Jocks.
Oh God. Wow. See, I was thinking more
America
about
versus Russia.
Just give it the upgraded aesthetic of like MechWarrior Online, you know, with the capabilities of the techs, the Tesla pods, and there you go. Beyond that, like, it's really hard. I'd have a hard time because either, again, like, either the game is bad and I enjoyed it, or it's just bad and it doesn't deserve the remake, or it's already good. So I think that's one of the things that we're seeing. Like, there's some exceptions. Like, I think Final Fantasy 14 is one of the true exceptions where you actually see that remake being done. And I honestly think part of the reason that they did is because of how many chips were invested into the production of that game. And if it didn't make it, it was going to break the company.
Oh, another good one is actually the PS3 port of Skyrim. Like, for the longest time, people were just like, yeah, if you get Skyrim on PS3, you basically hate yourself. Because, like, going into water could just cause your game to crash. It was that bad. But eventually, they finally patched it, like, years after release, in an unacceptable amount of time, but they did finally fix it.
Right. And I suppose, I mean, to be fair, Skyrim's had how many remakes and re-releases? So it got that. It got that.
Personally, I'm definitely a fan of the the Amazon option for that.
God. Yeah. All right. So, other colorful conversation, just for the kicks and whatnot. Do any of you have any unique control schemes that you use when you play your games? Which game and what do you do?
So when I played Final Fantasy VII in that 24-hour stream, I chose to play it on PC.
Yep.
And you can put a controller on it in that format, but they do give you keyboard controls.
Yeah.
And those keyboard controls are the most random keys in the history of the universe. You find yourself... So the shoulder buttons, as they were on the original PlayStation, are page up, page down, home, and end.
Why do bad PC ports always use those buttons? Like, it seems by default, if your PC port was poorly handled, you use those keys.
I think what it is, like, conceptually, it's, well, nobody uses those keys for anything, so we're not going to mess anything up if they want to type something while they're playing this game, which they're not going to type because it was originally a console game to begin with, but whatever. And so they say, well, those buttons don't get used. I won't have to worry about it. It's fine. Let's do that.
Okay. You know, I had to think about it, like, God, unusual controller schemes. Like, I usually just use the default. I think the exception is when you start getting to, like, from Halo 2 to Halo 3 to Halo Reach, and then you start reconfiguring back to an earlier Halo. But that's not an unusual controller scheme. It's just a different than the default. It makes sense, right? Because it was another game's default. I think the exception, like, interesting, like, key combination. Why do you do? I may just have to default to. I'm sorry to say this, and for the people that are watching live that watch me play this on a regular basis, what the hell is he doing?
I think he opened the gate to hell. That sounded very evil.
No, I was trying to click on it, and now it's sticking.
Yes, Nox.
I keep it
a
open
Kraken.
because, you know, you're supposed. That's one of the main things with a tornado is if you hear a train thing. So it's like, I'm keeping my ears out because it's just that fun.
I'm only going to tell you this because I do have a background with some meteorology stuff. If you can hear the train, you're already screwed. I'm just going to put that out there. Anyway, as far as, like, the controller scheme, Elite Dangerous. Because
I mean, it's unique because you have the HOTAS.
it is. I have the HOTAS, I use the keyboard, I use the mouse, and because not everything is key configured, some of the stuff that you opt to use, like the frequency spectrum scanner, or the detail surface scanner, or the SRV, or these various aspects of the game that not everyone uses, because there are so many freaking things you can do in the game. You have to macro them, or you have to set the key binding yourself. And my key binding setting is different from anyone else's, or is less likely to be. I'm sure there are other people that do, like the frequency scanner, where you're basically looking for other planets or whatnot, right? A lot of people program that to be bound to the mouse movement. I do WASD for my movement because I do so many MMOs that it made sense for me to do movements with that. Right.
Ooh.
Yeah.
In MMOs, I end up moving my keys one step over to ESD and F, so that I have more options for my pinky finger. So my pinky can then hit A, Q, 1, 2, 3. I have all of these different hot keys that I can use for those and not have to worry about it.
You weirdo.
And anybody who plays my control scheme in an MMO is screwed. I get it, but it is
your pinky. Because like I'm looking at these keys and I'm like I have my own control scheme that does rely on my, but none of it has it going up to 1 or 2.
I use my pinky when I have to use Shift. That's perfect. That's great. I don't know what you're doing.
How big is my pinky though? That's kind of a personal question.
That's
And
I'd argue that's lewd almost.
that is rather lewd, and I'm vaguely offended, and will proceed not to answer your question. It's not the size; it's how you use it. Okay.
Then, if I remember it by the end of this podcast, the ending song I will blather on will be "Pinky in the Brain."
Oh gosh, but yeah, so that's my game choice. Like that is I have a really weird control scheme, but that's because every single commander has a weird control scheme for that game.
Nox, you want to go?
Sure. I usually use the default as well. Although there are some games, where they put like use an item as like the H key or Y key, then obviously that's getting changed. My other question is, what do you think about games in a series that every new game they release has a completely different set of things? I've seen this in BioShock. From going from the first BioShock to the second one, it's completely different again in Infinite. I've also seen this in just like the Walking Dead Telltales games. It seems every single season it's a different way you select the answer you want to say, and that is just drives me up a wall.
It's microaggression. It's a microaggression.
No, that's a really good question. I mentioned this earlier, right? Halo does a great job of doing exactly what you just described, right? Because going from 3 to Reach to ODST, those were all different. It's bonkers because like in one game I go to throw a grenade and then the next game I'm crouching. No, I wanted to throw the freaking grenade. I didn't want to crouch. So I desperately crawl to the settings and hope that there's like other settings that allow me to switch the key bindings back to an earlier game's presets. So that's my way to go about that. Otherwise, I just bumbled my way through the game going, my muscle memory is saying something else. That might be a sign. If you gotta step away, sir, we can make you a badger for the rest of the show.
It's just a severe thunderstorm warning. It's not anything.
All right.
Just,
Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
I do want to say real quick in answer to Nox's question. There's two things actually. One is if the change is reasonable, like there's an actual because that's going back to Bungie. I can understand why Reach controls differently to Halo 3. They drastically changed a bunch of things. They tossed out a whole bunch of mechanics like dual wielding. I can buy that. It's when your game hasn't really changed anything at all, like from the genre, and then you still have no control scheme that actually works like anyone else's. Like, say, 007 Bloodstone, because there's literally no control scheme in that game that actually functions normally. I mean it, seriously. Just try to find any single... I end up having to resort to one where going into cover involved hitting R2.
That's a problem.
Yeah, it was a really weird-ass game to experience. Like, there was no control scheme that matched any other Bond game or any other third-person game of any kind. I wasn't sure what Bizarre Creations was on. So that is the other thing where it's like, if there's no control scheme that actually works with the player, you're just proving the point that console games should just allow everyone to rebind. Which, I mean, consoles are now including as a default option. So, like... yeah, that whole war has finally been won by the platform holders, if nothing else.
Sure.
But to answer the broader question of do I use an odd control scheme? Well, you see here, kids, I have a Logitech writing keyboard which is really, really tiny. So that means when I set my fingers down, my pinky is always on the shift key. And the thing is, earlier last year, I did a retrospective on the Fear series, and I discovered that Monolith by default has the shift key for aim down sights. And suddenly, it became way easier to actually do things in the game because your right mouse button is bound to melee attacks. So, as a result, you're always focusing on the most ideal action. And I'm like, I actually seem to be fighting faster and better with this control scheme, and no one else has ever tried this, so I'm just going to go out on a limb here and try this control scheme in a few other games. is now my default control scheme. I have Alt for sprint because I actually usually have sprint set to toggle, so I'm just going to tap it real quick, and it's right next to my space bar.
Mm-hmm.
And now my right mouse button can be whatever I want, and most typically it's actually the use key. It's made Borderlands the pre-sequel so much less of a chore because you're not constantly going E key, E key, E key, E key. Instead, it's just like tap, tap, tap. Oh, because you're already doing it. Plus, it solves so many quick-time events. Hands cramp because you're already used to tap, tap, tapping like crazy on your mouse.
Sure.
So it actually is faster and more responsive. So I've actually betted it at a lot of shooters and action games. I even use it with R2 Make, and using right mouse button for interact became so intuitive that it was hard to go back to other games where that wasn't an option, where I couldn't bind it that way. So, yeah, now I'm a deviant mutant who constantly rebinds everything, although I'm still not as bad as one YouTube critic, Noah Caldwell Gervais. Pay attention in his videos when you see this button prompts come up on his screen. Like, you'll see numpad and, like, you know, the alternate enter key showing up on his control scheme. I do not know how the hell that guy plays his games. But, yeah. Monolith broke me, and now I play all my shooters the way everyone is like, what is wrong with you?
Well, I mean, you know what? No, I won't touch that.
There's one more. It gets a little bit worse though, folks. I also play all my fighting games exclusively on PC with keyboard because I actually play better that way. I am able to do combos on a keyboard. I can't do them on a controller. I've been trying for years. But I can play Injustice 2 at medium and sometimes even medium-high difficulty as Black Canary and Harley Quinn using numpad and WASD and a few buttons around WASD for the various interacts.
Okay.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I've scarred Dizza. He just looks so sad and unsatisfied.
Yeah?
It's on one side of things, I guess it makes a lot of sense because a lot of people who play Pro don't use controller, right? They're using control stick and a whole panel. And the keyboard kind of gets you there, but not really.
It's also a lot easier to remember the combos when I can associate letters with them. For me, it's that sort of thing. Like, it's a lot easier to remember AD4 than, okay, I need to make a semicircle and then I need to press this specific key and I need to do it in a lightning fast motion.
Do you work things out so that you can make words out of them? Like, you could really Shaun of the Dead a fighting game.
The game does it for you. Harley Quinn's Let's Play Doctor is sad.
Okay.
It works. I know it sounds crazy, but it works. And I wish that Mortal Kombat 10 would let me use that control. Like, no, we're not using the numpad because that's assigned to player 2. Why? I'm not going to have a player 2 playing against me on the same keyboard. No one is doing that.
Yeah. Okay. I don't think there's anything. I think it seems like we've got it seems. I love how it seems like there's three of us that are one way, and then one person is like, no, let me throw a monkey wrench into this, and does just that.
It's good. You want to have that diversity.
Yeah, right.
If everybody agrees, unless it's like morally reprehensible. Earlier statements about 90-hour work weeks.
Yeah.
It's good to have some argument.
No, I guess I agree with that.
Almost have to pull out the Sony glasses, I guess.
So we have one more topic for discussion, and this is again discussion. It's not really news related, but let's talk about games. It can be either an individual game or a series that at first you didn't like, but then you actually came around and actually enjoyed it. And I'll start this one off. I'll start off with an individual game. Diablo 3. Diablo 3 was horrible to start with, but we played at launch and we played in beta where the drops sucked and everything was grays and maybe greens. And it was horrible, but after 2.0, it was greatly improved and it was a lot more fun. So, Diablo 3, as far as an individual game is concerned, as far as the series, pretty much I made up my mind. Either I really enjoyed it or really didn't. And I don't think there's very many. There's certain games that took longer to grow on me, StarCraft, but I never disliked it. So that's my take on it. I don't know, Nox. What's a game that you didn't enjoy at first, but you grew to enjoy it, or a series for that matter?
They've the individual games definitely World of Warcraft.
Sure.
I tried that probably 8 or 9 years ago for the first time, and I was like, wow, this sucks. This is boring. And then I think it was 3 years ago, someone was telling me, you should come join my server and we'll do all the World of Warcraft things. And I was like, I don't know. It's not for me. I don't really play MMOs or anything like that. But then after I played for a bit, now I really love it. And hoping to get back into it again soon. But that was something major. Like, I never thought I would like a game like that.
Okay.
And then for a series, when I first played Metro a couple years ago, I really just didn't like it. But now it's one of my favorite game genres, or not genre, sorry, game series.
Okay.
And I actually, this was the first game I actually ever pre-ordered. I know that's a word we don't.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
I know. But I actually pre-ordered it for the $90 bundle thing too, and I don't regret it. So and then and one series I would like to actually like in the future is the Tomb Raider series. I have had so much trouble with that game, especially the first one, with just dying relentlessly because she doesn't hook onto a ledge, and I really want to like it, so I'm willing to just give it another go.
I can help you there. I might be able to help you there.
Yeah. Okay. What about you?
I will, I'll throw an interesting one out there. I failed at playing Persona 5 twice before I actually decided to give it the full go.
So that means you wasted even more hours on that game? Criminy.
I mean, the first few times were wasted. And here was the real problem that I needed to overcome. And I recognize this is 100% me. This is not about the developers. Maybe I have some Stockholm Syndrome at this point. I don't know. But I was having challenges when I had an open period in the day and I could choose to do anything because there was no time bound to it other than the days progressing in the story. And so I found myself constantly being like, okay, what's the optimal strategy so that I can get all of my confidants to the top level? Because I know I need to have the benefits for them because I'm playing this on a high difficulty and I'm going to totally mess something up. And oh my gosh, what do I do? And half an hour later, I would get through one day.
Mm-hmm.
And then I would come in the next day, I'd have my class done, and guess what? I get to do it again! Yeah! So I stressed out so much about it that I just stopped playing. And that happened twice.
Oh.
The thing that got me to play was really being able to play it on stream. Because at that point it was, hey, I'm doing this with people. They kind of want to see what the story is as well. It was enough to force me into, I may not be making the best decisions, but I'll run with it anyways.
Okay.
And I think it definitely turned out for the better. I am interested in trying another Persona, and I feel less stressed out about it as a result.
I would love to see you do 3 at some point. I think 3 has been compared sometimes more closely to 5.
Mm-hmm.
It's interesting that you choose Persona. That is so much time. Okay. Actually, can
we slash play on your World of Warcraft account for a quick second? Can we?
That's a bit of the pot calling the kettle black, is it not?
It is, but you can't call me up for Persona without that.
Fine.
But it's
fine,
an MMO.
fine.
It's to be expected.
Yeah.
I'm gonna add one. I did think of a franchise. It finally hit me. I'm like, oh yeah, of course. A franchise that took at first I didn't care for, and came back around and I enjoy now. Pokemon.
Really?
I didn't like Pokemon when it first came out.
I am surprised that you did not enjoy Pokemon right away.
No, I didn't like Red and Blue. It was Diamond Pearl that maybe enjoyed a little bit more. But X and Y is what, X and Y third shot. That's what did it for me. X and Y was so good, and I enjoyed that a ton, and that's what made me enjoy the franchise a lot more. So there you go, Pokemon.
The pacing was fantastic in X and Y, and I think that was the one thing that they nailed, especially for people who are coming back in. Not having a grind for your levels to get to the progression point, like that was the single biggest smart move that they made in that. Yep. And definitely still lists as my favorite Pokemon to date.
Yeah. Raichu, but yeah, no, that there you go. So there's mine. Elijah, what about you?
A lot of the answers I could give are going to piss off a lot of fanboys. Like, I cannot stand the traditional Gears games. I have played Gears of War Judgment more than once. I actually have never played more than like an hour of Call of Duty Modern Warfare. It was actually a surprise for me that I enjoyed the Black Ops series. Like, it was complete coincidence of just being like, there's a free beta, why not? And then being like, I actually really enjoy this. And this doesn't seem like what I was expecting. And just there's a lot of series where I've ended up going backwards and exploring things. That's going to be at some point happening with Metal Gear Solid, because I loved Peace Walker, so at some point I'm going to be diving into the other ones a bit more, but for the longest time it just was really out of reach. Relax, Dizza. I have original physical copies of Metal Gear Solid 1, VR missions, 2, and 3 Subsistence. I am going to be getting to it at some point. I got very lucky thanks to random farmers markets. But the thing is, there's several also where I've become a defender of a game, and I started out being a critic. Because that's the thing is, like, people seem to assume that I just gravitate towards liking a certain game because people don't like it. But no, I was bashed. You can find video footage of me bashing Battleborn's beta. I was not at all a fan of it. I thought it was taking way too long. I thought it was extremely boring. I thought it had a shit ton of problems. It wasn't until they patched it that way when I said. And speaking of that, another more relevant game. I played the closed alpha of Anthem. I had a lot of concerns. I was very on the fence. I was very alarmed, and just so... A lot of games for me has just been like, I gravitate towards whatever one seems to be different, simply because it sounds like it's going to be interesting and it might actually be an easier entry point, which is, I think, something that a lot of people who are hardcore for a series don't get about when something like Gears of War Judgment releases, where it's like, it is actually easier for some of us to get into it, even if it's not necessarily what the hardcore fans desire. Some people actually say that of Persona 5 even. There are people who are like, no, it's not the full hardcore Persona experience that you want. You want 2 or 3 or 4. So it's like, it's been like that. The most hilarious one for me, though, and this is one that my ex will never let me live down, was I friggin' hated Skyrim. Like, someone gave me a copy, and I was hate playing it, trying to figure out why people liked it. Because the typical Bethesda stuff drove it, because I got Oblivion, obliviously, that was not an intentional pun, by the way, I just wandered into that one.
I could probably think of a reason or two, but I'm in a similar boat as you with that.
But it's like, I wandered into Oblivion, and it was like, I randomly killed one guy. I attacked some guy's sheep, not knowing that they were his sheep, and then he fought me, so I had to kill him so that he wouldn't kill me. Mm-hmm. And then suddenly there was a wanted bounty for me across the entire land, and just... There were so many elements that were not realistic in the slightest. You want to talk about a freaking fantasy. Oh my gosh, the way the rules of that whole place in Cyrodiil just... Oh, I wanted to strangle the game by the end. So I never actually finished it. I never met Sean Bean or anything like that. I never fulfilled my destiny. I just was like, screw this noise. And when I got to Skyrim, it was like, okay, I'm going to walk into a town and randomly just attack an animal. See what happens. I, of course, happened to attack a chicken. And then thus began my hatred of Skyrim until, kids, I discovered that you could be playing as the Joker, essentially. That I learned how to use the stealth system. And I just started becoming a crazed homicidal man, which, for the record, I don't usually do that in games. I typically do my first playthrough as a good guy. Or, well, yeah, at least chaotic neutral good. Whereas bad guy is second playthrough. Skyrim, it was only evil.
Mm-hmm.
But I found fun in it. I finally was like, okay, I'm starting to see, because, like, I tried to do the whole wizarding quest in, Winterfell, and it's like, yeah, this is a really lame fanfic of Harry Potter. I'm gonna do something else. And I found my niche. I became the leader of the Dark Brotherhood, and I caused all sorts of mayhem and chaos, and I loved I'm blanking on the name of the town. I believe it was Riften, where there's all the thieves. Favorite place. Lovely people. 10 out of 10. Would cause massive crimes all over again.
Okay.
But my ex was furious because I'd been bitching to her the whole time about how Skyrim was awful, and then when I finally started to have fun, she was like, "You do not get to fricking say that! You do not! I have been hearing all week about how Skyrim is awful."
See, I just... I have opinions about Skyrim. I couldn't find any fun in it. Like, I still can't find fun in it. But that's my own personal opinion.
I understand why trying to play it traditionally, it just doesn't work.
No, it really doesn't. Yes. Agreed. Does anyone else have any other topics or discussion points that they'd like to bring up, or shall we go ahead and wrap this up?
I feel like that's a good place for us to end.
All right. Well, before we go, this is our opportunity to go ahead and shill ourselves and talk about what we're doing, where you can find us. And to kick this off, let's go right back to our guest this week, Nox. Where can we find you? What do you have coming up on your channel?
Let's see. Well, you can find me at NoxtheSplicer, both on Twitch and on Twitter. And I'm one of those people that is constantly on Twitter 24/7. And coming up, we have Observation, which will be happening on Tuesday. And I even got a little spacesuit for that.
Nice!
Yeah. And other than that, we're just going with the flow.
Okay.
I just, do things as they come.
Cool.
That's there.
Awesome. Right on. Elijah, where can we find you? What do you got coming up?
I am the Unabridged Gamer on all of the things. It's either Unabridged Gamer or the Unabridged Gamer. We're going to be doing one more Star Wars stream before May is over for the whole May the 4th bit. We just wrapped up Republic Commando. I'm going to see if there's a way to do a console Star Wars game, because we've been mostly doing the PC ones, and there's some really good console ones. So the poll will be going up on my Twitter at Unabridged Gamer, so find that out there. Also, Clash of the Tie-Ins continues, and obviously, yes, there will be a review or something of this one.
Okay.
Abso-friggin-lutely. And I can happily announce, as I am literally have it on the editing table right now, one of 2 op-eds about Anthem, explaining why the hell I'm even still playing this game, is going to be coming up. And I'm actually rather excited. It's given me some really interesting topics to talk about in terms of game design and storytelling that I think should be a fun time.
Okay. Awesome. Dizza, what do you got coming up on your channel? Where can we find you?
Hey there, everyone. I'm the person who told Jesse that making ID tags for a subway train that you knew wasn't going to work was a waste of time. And I'll be playing a bunch of things that aren't related to Final Fantasy VII. A little bit of Eco with flying bolts. I've been throwing out the idea with a couple of friends about doing a kind of role-playing campaign with Divinity 2.
Oh, I'm going to see this.
Yeah.
which I think would be an absolute blast. We'll see. It's in the works. I'm not sure when everything will kind of come together. And of course, like any other role-playing group, it takes forever to figure out getting a schedule together that everybody can attach themselves to. So if that happens, that's fantastic. If it doesn't, I've got some games in the queue, probably a little bit of Breath of the Wild, because it's been a while since I played that, and Open World sounds real good right now. And of course, my channel is raising money for St. Jude, along with a bunch of other people in the Noob crew, so definitely stop on by. We're looking forward to hitting our goal of $500 here shortly. When that happens, I will be signing up for a 12-hour stream, and not a 24-hour stream for a good long time, unless people hit 1,000, which would be way too amazing.
Awesome. As for me, you're already on my channel, but if you're listening or watching on another site, Miss Michelle Jean on all the platforms, Twitter, Twitch, etc. On Tuesday and Wednesday, we will be doing Morally Dangerous, working on stuff. We have more giveaways to do. We just gave away a space shuttle, a Lego space shuttle on Friday night, which was incredible. So we'll be doing more of that. Friday will not be a stream night because I'm starting later that night at technically Saturday morning, 12 a.m. So it'll be Friday night, Saturday morning, 12 a.m. And I'll be going for 24 hours. All this while doing St. Jude Play Live as well. So be ready for that. There'll probably be that. There'll probably be a trucking simulator somewhere in there. There'll probably be more Forager in there somewhere. There'll definitely be the Division 2. During the Division 2, if we can hit our threshold, I have a Amazon gift card to give away, so you can purchase your own copy of the Division 2 on whichever console you prefer. And that is about it for myself. Later on in a couple weeks, we'll be back with the Newbcast Podcast with myself, Dizza, Hipponanimous, and one other guest, which is to be determined. That being said, for NoxtheSplicer, Dizza G, and the Unabridged Gamer, my name is Miss Michelle Jean. This has been the Newbcast Podcast. Thank you so much for watching, and have a great night.
The pinky and the brain, the pinky and the brain. One is a genius, the other's insane. The laboratory mess.